No, you're right. I'm just making sure that there's not one that we're not seeing, like, on the back end somewhere.
No, that would suck. Like,
Yeah, like
damn,
my two
guys, I've been
articles that
sitting on
haven't
that
gone up.
podcast for a while.
Like my 2 reviews that haven't gone up for like a
Yo,
month.
if it makes you feel better, neither of my shit, Chris. Like, man, I guess that Call of Duty review must have really sucked. To the Endless Backlog Podcast, your number one amateur hour podcast, as told by me, the man who told you Destiny would be a hot fucking joke, because Bungie is hot fucking trash. My name is Gagandeep Singh. I will be your host for the evening. Joining me today is the author of Eternal Dreams from Canada, Christopher Compton.
It's been too long, my friends.
And look at Chris, he's got a new mic!
It's hot pink. Snowball.
Yeah. Chris repping that.
That sounds really weird.
I feel like you should have got that mic in like October. We could have played it off as you like repping breast cancer awareness.
Yeah, I'll be ready this year though.
Does it like stick out in your room? Like
it's so obscenely like obnoxious. There's just like whites and normal colors, and then there's just this bam pink right in the middle.
Dude, that's awesome. That's
beautiful.
Awesome. I kind of want now a hot pink mic just to be like, you know what? I want a like really obnoxious Pepto-Bismol mic.
It is exactly that color.
I was looking at it, I'm like, wow, that is literally the Pepto-Bismol shade right there.
Yeah. It gets me a little thirsty.
Keeping Chris comfy in terms of like making him feel at home, because we got another Canadian joining us today. Tom Tower's favorite Canadian, Al Josa.
Hello. I'm honored to be his favorite Canadian. Shout out to Tom Towers.
Yeah, he's specifically, like, no pressure, but at some point you're going to have to say something supremely dickish that he agrees with. Just because, like, he expects those things, right? Like, I shared out a little spiel about Spec Ops The Line the other day where you were like, are you mad? Like, I would play that shit. And he laughed. But, and that's Will crying at any negative things said about Spec Ops The Line. William Berger, my lead editor. How are you doing?
I'm doing excellent. It's a lovely day here in Florida, cold, which means that people are going to the parks for some reason. It's weird. I don't know. It's a good day.
Cold.
Yeah, this guy said cold and he's in Florida. Give me a break.
No.
I understand cold.
-30 today.
-50 below, man.
Bruh.
50 below in Nebraska. I get cold.
Yeah. Will's
like for Florida, we were sitting at like 32 pretty much the whole day. That's cold for us.
That would kill us here in Canada.
32 is pretty cold even then. Like, I don't like any...
Oh, yeah, you guys are on that Fahrenheit.
I don't like anything under 40.
You have 40-degree day, Goggin.
I am totally, like, memorable. There are many things you could knock me for. Being forgettable is not one of them. Like, come on. Don't even blame me, Chris. Don't even blame me. Anyway, welcome back to the grind. We apologize for being off for a month. We've been super busy doing bullshit. Like, half the time we could have podcasts, so we're just like, at least half of them were, I just didn't want to podcast that day. At least half of them were that. Like, I'm taking full blame on those. Like, I had every intent to podcast at least 2 times in the last, like, week, and I was like, fuck, I'd rather just sit here and search the internet, bro.
Oh my god. First world problems. Too lazy to do a podcast.
Dude, it was the perfect storm of like, and then on the day where everyone was like on the same page, someone would have to bow out and go somewhere.
Yeah.
Fucking go bowling or some shit.
Yeah, Ben was supposed to be on this podcast because once we get over the topic, it was a game he really likes, but he can't be here for reasons, and plus, I don't think anyone wants to hear the giant garbage trucks that are near his neighborhood that come beeping in the middle of the fucking night. That poor guy.
Oh my god.
Otherwise,
my god.
But since now that
high definition garbage truck audio.
Yeah, it is. It is top notch. So now that we're finally done with the best of Gen 7 stuff, and we're not necessarily a great newsy podcast, like we try to do that, we'd be like way the fuck behind.
Yeah, we got 2 months to catch up on.
Yeah, like holy fuck, a lot of things have happened in 2 months, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
we'll just sweep it under the carpet and pretend like it never happened.
We'll sweep that shit like, whatever. Fucking video games, fucking EA and Ubisoft. Like, whatever. But we are called Endless Backlog, and a lot of us have just randomly playing older games out of nowhere that I figured a lot of this year, and because I'm doing the 52 game challenge, the only way I'm doing that is by playing some older games, because I doubt I buy 52 games from this year.
Who would?
Yeah, right?
Not after Metal Gear Solid The Phantom Goat.
Right?
Actually, if there were a year for 52 games, it might be this year.
Yeah, you know, it is starting off smooth. Like, Dying Light turned out to be a good game.
Oh,
you
yeah,
like
that also a good game, The Order, 1886. Yeah, go buy that.
And Goggin loves handhelds, so he could get the remake of Majora's Mask.
I hate handheld, but I did buy the Virtual Console version of Majora's Mask in all of its 20 frames per second glory.
It's a beautiful 20 frames, though.
It is. That is the worst part about going back to N64 games, is the fucking awful frame rate. Oh my god. PC gaming will ruin N64 games for you. Like,
I'm pretty
instantly.
sure time ruins N64 games.
That's also true. But see, the
That's
other thing
true,
about...
but honestly, as like... And we're going to have to do the Ocarina podcast eventually, because we are going to do that podcast of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask. But, honestly, and I wrote this on Twitter, that game has mediocre combat and mediocre puzzles, but 17 years later, that game is still fun.
Unlike Majora's Mask.
Fuck you, first of all.
Damn.
I said unlike Bungie games, but you didn't have to go there. Dickhead. Anyway, so I figured the podcast that we should start this off with for the year has to be a Resident Evil 4. And there's a variety of reasons for that. One, it recently turned 10 years old. Like,
last year.
We didn't do, not last year, January. Last month, though.
Oh, right,
like,
right.
We didn't do a lot of 2004 games that turned 10 years old, and we should have done those podcasts. And I was like, if we don't do one for Resident Evil 4, with the way some of us talk about that game, is a travesty. Like, of the highest order. Because that game deserves to be talked about, in my opinion.
You know, Goggin, we dodged a bullet not doing the 2004 ones because we would have had to acknowledge Half-Life 2.
So you say that, but another thing... No, another thing. I said this to Ben and Phil. If I replay it this year, I'll do a podcast with Ben and Phil if they replay it as well. So we can have that Half-Life 2, like... Because I feel like that argument is worth listening to if, like, done in, like, a civil manner.
That's not going to happen, but sure.
Yeah. You know, but, you know, the other reason is at least two of the people in our group would call it their favorite game of all time.
Yeah, like without a doubt.
Yeah, for me, it depends on the day. It could either be Resident Evil 4 or it's one of the Metroid games for my favorite game of all time. Will knows it's a damn good game. Phil knows it's a damn good game. I want to say his favorite game is obviously going to be one of the Metal Gears.
Yeah.
Like, come on.
I think it's Metal Gear Solid 2.
Yeah, I think it is,
I would
actually.
imagine, yeah. Actually, the one weird thing about this all is, Chris, what's your favorite game ever? Like, what's the game?
Favorite game ever? I flip-flop on this a lot. I'd say, Kingdom Hearts. Am I right, guys?
Kingdom Hearts is your favorite game? No, that's fine.
No,
Really?
no,
I would have,
no.
like, I honestly would have thought that you would have picked Persona 4.
It probably is, because when I was looking through, I was like, if Mass Effect 2 was not my favorite game of last gen, Persona 4 is probably my favorite game then.
I mean, Persona 4 was your favorite game of last gen.
Yeah, that's what I mean, because I put Persona 4 ahead of Mass Effect 2, and I thought Mass Effect 2 was my favorite game.
None of the games from your childhood would beat out Persona 4?
Ocarina of Time. Ocarina of Time's in my top 5, but it doesn't beat Persona 4.
Wow, damn. Alright, so...
I remember Chris telling me that I told him to play that game, but Persona 4, but I have no recollection of like this event, yeah.
You definitely
But I'll still take
said
credit for that.
Persona 4 is an amazing game. You need to play it. I was like, okay, Jose, I believe you. And then like a year later, he's like, yo, Persona 4 baby's first JRPG. And I was like, what the fuck?
I always thought that. I mean, it's good, but
The
like,
Jose cycle kicked in, tricked me into playing my favorite game of all time.
The Aljosa cycle doesn't mess around, man.
I'm in awe that the Aljosa cycle never turned on Resident Evil 4. Like,
It's gonna happen.
It's
It's gonna happen one day.
He'll
That's
wake up and be
nonsense.
like, you know what?
It's gonna happen.
Like one
It
day
wasn't
he's
that
just gonna
good,
wake
guys.
up, fuck Resident Evil 4. Just ruined all video games.
oh yeah, there you go. Yeah, it did.
I'll just go on Twitter and I'll just be like, Resident Evil 4 sucks.
Oh my god. Anyway, so start things off, I think we should give like a little bit of a history lesson just because you kind of have to and talk about where Resident Evil was at the time. You know,
In the beginning.
Yeah, in the beginning, there was 1996 and the original Resident Evil released, right? And history now calls it the first survival horror game or whatever, which it's not really true.
It's like Doom. It's like not technically the first person person shooter, but it's the grandfather of them all. You know what I mean?
Yeah. You're right. Like Wolfenstein's really the first FPS, but to everyone it's Doom.
Right.
Where Doom's the one that keeps getting the credit. Resident Evil suffers from Alone in the Dark and all these, and a few of these other games came first, but like Resident Evil was like, that was the day survival horror ballooned into something, right?
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, a lot of what made that game special was, first of all, atmosphere, obviously, the amazing voice acting. I mean, just top-notch, stellar stuff, right?
The master of unlocking.
You know, a really powerful weapon, especially against living things, which, okay, Barry, you're the best. But really, like, that game was built on, like, limited ammo, you had ink ribbons for saving things, and, like, so you had limited saves, besides limited ammo, your inventory system wasn't really all that loaded. Like, a lot of times you were micromanaging, like, the items you had in the environment, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or little puzzle things, and, like, those games never controlled, like, tight.
Oh, they were pretty bad.
No, they were tank controls, man.
Yeah, tank controls. Yeah. Like, I would say they don't control. I wouldn't even defend some of them.
No.
But you know, but I always thought that added to the games at least to some extent, and like, you know, Resident Evil ballooned into this like all-time top tier. Like, it was one of the better franchises of that era. Like, first it was a new IP, and it was like one of the things that, in my opinion, defined why the PlayStation whooped the N64's ass. Was just because, like, you know, like N64, I felt like, as people put it, like, Nintendo was still sort of playing to the same audience that they kept playing to during the NES and SNES era, without realizing that audience got older. And that's where, you know, PlayStation won them over with Tomb Raider and Resident Evil and Metal Gear Solid,
Final Fantasy,
and Siphon Filter. And then the Final Fantasy one's the huge one. That's like, they lost Japan because of that one. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but I mean, like, you know, you can track it.
No, yeah, but that's what I mean. Like, but like that was like the other big like death nail for the N64.
Yeah.
Like, because you would have thought at least Nintendo would have won in Japan, but then they lost. Specifically, I think Square's the big one. Like, I think they could have survived without some of the other third parties, but when they lost Square, that was when it was huge.
Yeah, I mean, because you look at Square's output during that time, and it's just like,
yeah. I mean, Square was basically a machine back then.
Could you imagine Final Fantasy VII on Nintendo 64?
That game would be a completely different game.
It would be very different.
Probably.
You know, it would probably work.
Probably would have. I mean, for all we know, it could have been an even more interesting game, because like a lot of that era's JRPG is you play a bit and your payoff is CGI cutscene.
Right. So like, I think they just would have gone that whole thing where like you get those cutscenes that are like in engine but not interactive, and all the characters are talking.
Yeah.
But like, if you do that, like, why couldn't it work?
Yeah. I mean, if anything, those games would have played a little bit more like Ogre Battle 64, if anything.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of like those kind of games, but you know. Anyway, back to Resident Evil for a second. Not that Resident Evil didn't eventually show up on the N64, but listen, timed exclusivity matters to some extent. Beyond that, Resident Evil then goes on to have Resident Evil 2. It's the first game directed by Hideki Kamiya, and a lot of people might argue that might be the better game between it and 1. I would definitely double down on that one, because Leon Kennedy's in it.
Leon Kennedy.
Yeah, it does the 2-character thing really well before it bridges their storylines together. It was the beginning of Mr. X, which, to put this in another perspective, a lot of these sort of indestructible enemies that chase you throughout the game, a scenario we've seen in BioShock 2 or Alien Isolation to some extent, or Dead Space.
Prince of Persia.
Prince of Persia has something like this. I think I'm forgetting another game that's done something
Silent
like
Hill
that.
2?
Silent Hill 2, yeah, the Crimson Head himself. That lineage goes all the way back to Mr. X in Resident Evil 2. Nemesis was the one everyone remembers because he got to have the big title in the next game. But really, it was Mr. X because Mr. X was Nemesis but good, in my opinion.
Shit is creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah, does anyone remember that one skiing game on computers, yo? Ski Free? With that dude that you can't ever pass. Yeah, that guy's the original Ultimate Invincible Nemesis, bro. God damn.
Are you saying that's the lineage?
Fuck yeah, man. That's the lineage, bro.
Snowboarding games.
Oh my god.
No, I like that the absurd lineage is Ski Freeze, Abominable Snowman, Mr. X.
Yeah, that guy doesn't fuck around, man. It's behind any tree, yo.
Crimson Head.
That's the OG survival horror, man. I'm serious.
Oh, jeez.
Now I want a Ski Free remake just so it builds him up.
You don't know which tree he's hiding behind, bro. It's a suspense factor. Real survival horror.
Ain't no guns for this. All you can do is ski. All you can do is ski away.
That is terrifying.
It's like, will you ride the hill, or will he ride you?
On the hill.
Oh my god.
Oh, can we get back on topic, please?
Were we talking about?
Sure.
Something survival horror zombies?
Resident Evil 2 was really good. So here's what happened. After Resident Evil 2, they made Nemesis, they made Code Veronica, they made Resident Evil 0. Resident Evil 0 is not a good game. I'm not going to talk about that game. They made a bunch of Resident Evils after that. They made a co-op Resident Evil called Resident Evil Outbreak. They made 3 light gun game Resident Evils.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that.
So,
Didn't Outbreak have online too on PS2?
Yeah, it did.
That was neat. You'd think they would bring that back
was such
somehow.
a cool concept that was hamstrung by the fact that the PS2 had crap online. With legit online. Man.
It wasn't that. It wasn't just that. They didn't allow you to use the headset that you could use in SOCOM, but you...
Oh, right, yeah, you couldn't communicate.
what is this, Dark Souls?
Yeah, for fucking real. But coolest thing about the game, first of all, you could put bookcases in front of doors and be a dick to one of your teammates and get them killed, right?
Perfect.
Griefing. Except, now that person that dies comes back as a zombie, and he's hunting you down, and that was fucking cool, and he gets his payback.
Oh, man, and Outbreak had so many cool ideas. I would
They need to go back to that.
Only way to go is up at this point.
At this point. But the reason why I bring this up is, at this point in time, before Resident Evil 4 is coming out, if people remember this right, Resident Evil has gotten stale to people. Resident Evil Remake, which was, this remake and, this brilliant, one of the best remakes of all time. Let me rephrase that. The best remake of all time. Because it's the only one that, ground up changes the original game for a new era and improves it tenfold, right? Because I think other remakes are just port jobs almost.
They mostly are port jobs.
Yeah, and which to an extent I understand. People want the original code. They don't want I need the silent cartographer to play exactly the way it did in 2001. I need the water dungeon to literally be dog shit all these years later. And it's
nobody ever asked for that.
Right? Love.
Yeah. You could have fixed it even more. Which, whatever. To an extent, Nintendo does fix certain things about those games. Like, quality of life changes, whatever. But that game tanked. Like, you look up, like, any article on Resident Evil Remake, it's that game did not do well. Like, Capcom was expecting more. And part of it was because the GameCube just wasn't a big seller. Like, that was the other half of the equation. If it had been on the PS2, who knows? PS2, yeah, okay. Thought I said that wrong. Fuck. Anyway, and so at this point, Resident Evil needs a big departure, right? And the prototypes of Resident Evil 4, like, initially one of them is the game that ended up becoming Devil May Cry. Like, what people don't know is that was originally a Resident Evil game. And that got turned into Devil May Cry.
And then there was one that was, like, really similar to Fatal Frame, where, like, with, like, actual ghosts and stuff, yeah. And, like, you can find a video of that one, actually, because they had it pretty far along, and that one was really cool.
Yeah, no, honestly, like, that could have been a cool game, too, but,
just...
history is what it is. It'd be interesting if they went back to that game, though. But, so, Shinji Mikami came up with the concept, like, of really trying to, like, put Leon into, like... He brought Leon Kennedy back, who was awesome, and, like, the idea behind the Resident Evil 4 game was that he was trying to create a smarter enemy. Because when you thought of zombies, you thought lumbering idiots that don't really chase you. His general premise of the game was you were going to take them as a genuine threat because they were witty, they were setting up traps, suddenly the environment was more of a threat to you than anything else. And, like, what we ended up getting is, like I said, in my opinion, one of the greatest games ever made. The absolute best third-person shooter ever made. I will say that. I'm not even going to throw the disclaimers of one of the... It is the third-person shooter, in my opinion. And also, probably a game that shouldn't be called a survival horror game in Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, this would be one of those, like, tactical lightning action subtitles things.
Yeah. I mean, it's like, plenty of franchises have done the whole, we're gonna change genres on you a little bit, or change, like, the pure essence of what this franchise was about, right? Like, Splinter Cell did it last gen, and it was not a good game.
Dead Space did it, and it was not a good game.
Yeah, and then, because I was gonna say Nuts and Bolts did it, but I like Nuts and Bolts, so whatever. But that's another one where the fans turned on it, like, completely. Yeah. Whatever.
You know, Warrior Within got a lot of backlash when it changed up the way Prince of Persia was.
Yeah, but I felt like they never changed the game.
They changed the tone, yeah.
Yeah, and the tone was...
bad.
A bad decision, in my opinion. Because they went a little too fucking Godsmack with that goddamn song.
It's like...
It's like no one wants to listen to the Scorpion King song. Unless The Rock is in this game. I don't want to see
You don't want to stand alone?
You know?
Bonus character.
No.
Oh my god.
I mean, whatever. I still think Warrior... I still think Warrior Within is a
decent game. Yeah.
There's a lot of... Worth it.
Yeah. But, really, so Resident Evil 4, I mean, I really don't know even where to start with this game other than I fucking love this game.
Start at
I think we should maybe talk about the camera.
Go for it.
Because especially in Resident Evil, the camera had always been fixed, and it would do these weird things and other, like, give you weird hallway angles so you couldn't really see what you were doing. And then other third-person games, it was kind of, that third-person pulled back. Like, if you're playing Spyro, it's, like, right behind Spyro and kind of floating right above him.
Max Payne, it's like right behind him, a little over his head.
And then, you get the camera in Resident Evil 4, which is the over-the-shoulder. And we take that for granted now. Like, that is just the way you make third-person shooters. But back in 2004, nobody had ever done that.
Well, that's because the game itself was, like, needed that camera. You can't play Resident Evil 4 with the static camera.
No, he's exactly what he's saying, but, like, it's not just that it changed Resident Evil, it changed third-person shooters as
it changed the industry. I mean, like...
Yeah, like...
The rulebook...
Third-person shooters do not get made without
the shoulder camera.
That camera anymore. Like, I'm trying to think of one... Like, Max Payne 3 is the one right now that I'm thinking.
And, Grand Theft Auto does their Grand Theft Auto thing, I guess, if you want to pull that out. Like, Rockstar does their thing. But it's not really, like...
No, even them.
Yeah,
even
but when you're aiming down,
shoulder.
It's in the same thing. But, like, just the replacing of that camera changes, like, the way you approach everything in the game. Because, and, like, the remake, which is funny because I'm playing it right now, like, half of what causes you issues in that game are what you can't see and your relationship to the environment and how that changes your controls. So when the camera changes, you have to be on top of it. Resident Evil 4 gave you this immediate sense of, like, comfort and control in terms of where the camera was. which allows them to be a lot more creative with their encounter design, with their level design, with what they're asking you to do.
Right. And, like, in general, like, Resident Evil was never about shot placement. Like, when you thought of Resident Evil, like, you shot someone, you didn't actually know where it was going to hit.
Headshots were
But
random.
Resident Evil 4, now you can be very specific where you want to shoot them. So now, because of that, enemies can throw things at you because it's like, no, you can shoot that out of the air. Like, we gave you the tool, now use it. Like, we're gonna put armor on them in specific spots, and you need to be able to say, hey, I need to shoot that motherfucker in the kneecap, or... Yeah, you know? Something like that.
I love shooting people in the kneecap. They always, like, collapse.
And I think that's another thing, too, cool. Is that Resident Evil 4 did location-specific damage, which still isn't even that common. You know, GoldenEye did it, and, like, maybe Halo does it a little bit. Perfect Dark does it. But realistically, it's not that common. But in Resident Evil 4, it was this huge, like, part of the game where you couldn't have it without it because, you know,
That's part of the, God, I hate using this word. The sandbox of what Resident Evil's mechanics are, like, at that point. Like, part of the tactical elements of Resident Evil 4 is I could go, like, just shotgunning people in the face or whatever, or I can shoot this motherfucker in the knee, knife him up a bit, and then move on to the next group of dudes.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
You know, the other thing is that, like it asks you to do more, but it gives you more control, too. Because going back to the remake, like, the thing that gets me is I'm either aiming up, I'm aiming straight at something that's on the same level as I am, or I'm aiming down. That's all I'm doing. Mm-hmm. So, like, when I shoot at a dog, I'm aiming down. If I get a headshot on a zombie, it's completely random. So, like, you have less control over your ammo in that situation. In Resident Evil 4, when you mess up, it's on you. What you decide to approach an encounter with, like, am I going to shoot him in the leg? It's on you. Like, it makes your use of ammo that much more important.
And the beauty of it is people act like, oh, Resident Evil 4 didn't have tank controls. And it's like, actually, yes, it does. Like, actual controls are literally Resident Evil Remake. Like, you look at the actual interface, like the buttons you press of the GameCube controls for Resident Evil Remake and the GameCube controls for Resident Evil 4, it's exactly the same thing.
It is, yeah.
The thing that changed is the camera, and suddenly, with all this new information, you can make a completely different game. Because, like, the game they were making in Remake just wouldn't work with that camera. Like, if you could, all of a sudden, all those slow lumbering zombies are a joke.
Yeah.
Like, they cease to be a threat.
Yo, with Remake, I don't remember playing like anything before Resident Evil 4, but did those games have quick turn?
Remake has quick turn, yes.
They did? Word.
Remake did, and I want to say the other ones did, but it's been so long.
I've never played the original release of 1, so I don't know if 1 did, but I think 2 does for sure.
In Resident Evil 4, yo, like that move makes the like tank controls like completely like not a problem at all.
Yeah,
when you get good at it, you run, quick turn, shoot in the head, do a awesome ass suplex, or shoot them in the knees, and like roundhouse kick. Oh, so good. And then you don't even worry about the tank controls, yo.
Yeah.
You become one with Leon. You just get all up in his hairdo and just become him.
I think
straightest video game character of all time.
I think it's funny, you know, like people don't want to give Resident Evil 4 credit for being precise. But that's what that game is. Like, it requires a lot of precision and knowing, like, what you can do at any given moment and what your options are. And just, I think the other thing that, like, is really cool is the fact that, like, they managed to work in, like, your targeting reticle in a natural way that didn't feel intrusive.
Yes, I just wanted to say, more games need to have laser sights. None of that on-screen gamey stuff. Give me laser sights. It's so cool.
And, you know, like, that allows you to...
Oh, yeah, that's right. The game doesn't have a crosshair. It's just, like, literally...
I know the Wii U version had an on-screen reticle, but that's why I didn't really like... Well, there was the option, I believe, to change it, but...
The beauty of... I think precise is a great word to describe Resident Evil 4, just because, like, all the reasons that it's excellent comes down to, like, precise... Like, so much precision across the board. Not even just, like, playing it, but, like, just... The way that game is designed is like, it's the little things it does that add up to this amazing experience that, like, you know is probably never going to happen again in a long-ass time because that type of game design takes so much, like, just dotting your I's, crossing your T's, and probably a buttload of money at this point.
And you know, it's like, it's one of those games that, like, we hate to use the expression, like, more than the sum of its parts. But, like, Resident Evil 4 is exactly the sum of its parts. And the fact is that like all of its parts are pretty much universally excellent, like down to small little details, which is just
in the way that they complement each
like
other.
There's no system in that game that feels out of place or at odds with another system. There's no fat on it.
Mm-hmm. I agree with the no fat on it. And going back to like the weird, like again, now that you got the added movement, I think not to diss the older remakes, because I think Resident Evil Remake is still an excellent game. I think Shinji Mikami has always been great at giving the player a certain limitation and then expecting and then constantly testing them on what they've learned about that game at that point. Like, he's gonna say, here are your, like, you cannot move and shoot in this game. How do you handle when I throw enemies at you from different directions? How do you control this wave? Like, I'm giving you a person that you need to guard from now until the end of the game. How do you handle this situation when I throw more enemies at you? How do you handle the situation when I throw this big clawed motherfucker at you? You know,
it's like pop quizzes through the game.
You know, we had this discussion, Goggin, when Evil Within came out, and about like the way Mikami designs things. And I like the thing that's really unique about him is he's not like designed by addition; he is designed by limitation, which.
In a lot of ways, I think his best work is the ones when he's limited the player. Because I feel like the two games where he's given the players... The one game where he maybe gave the player too much, I think ends up being, like, not as strong as you thought it would be. Mm-hmm. Like, Vanquish. He gave you, in my opinion, like, from a mechanical standpoint, that game is brilliant. Like, just plays so well. But, like, he didn't come up with enough scenarios for, like... Because, like, you could do so much in that game.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but like because of this limitation, he was able to create these. Like he was able to think a different way. It's so weird with that guy. God, what a brilliant bastard!
I can still remember because games are paced a certain way. You expect that a game starts off super simple and then you work your way up to like the hordes or like the big boss battle at the end of the level. I can still remember what you take down one of those guys, the villagers, and then you enter the village and immediately
a few villagers. You take the guy in the house, the two guys out of the house. There's the one guy after you free the dog, and then there's three more dudes, and then this one guy handing in the guess. I know that game by heart. And the one guy in the cabin, and then as you just said, this might not even be up for debate. I think maybe what might be the hardest part in that game is that one part in the village. Like, the hardest part might actually be the beginning of the game, which in theory is bad design, but it's like, it taught you, like, at that point, was like, it was a skill check.
Yeah.
It was a get good right now, because I'm not holding you by the hand. And it's
and usually I hate difficulty spikes in games, because I just feel like it's just frustrating for the sake of it, but for some reason, that whole scenario is so well just structured and paced, and the level design is perfect for what you can and can't do, that I love replaying that moment over and over again, no matter how fast it just spikes.
Yeah.
It's so fun.
So what happens in the first part of the game is in a village. The setup for the game is the president's daughter has been kidnapped and might be in this weird faraway section of Spain, right? And because it's the president's daughter, you know, the president of the United States of America, this global superpower, they decided to send one person.
Obviously.
The greatest person, though, ex-rookie cop, Leon S. Kennedy. So, he's in, like, this, like, so, like, the first meeting in that game, right? Like, you're walking and you meet the guy, and, like, he turns and he looks like just any other dude, except he's crazed, and he's gonna swing an axe at you. At this point, you learn the basic mechanics of the game. You go forward, blah, blah, blah. You do all the things I just said. And then, like, you get to the village. You're gonna, like, look through the binoculars, right? And then, as soon as you run up into that area, larger group of enemies, like, everyone in that village starts getting after you. And when I say it's a village, I mean, literally, it's like, there's a few houses, there's a little, like, church thing on the right, fucking cows and chickens and shit.
I think you have to fight at least 20 enemies in the village, right?
Something weird like that?
It's a lot.
Game on.
Like, it's not fooling around.
Yeah. And they don't... And at this point, like, you're still playing that game like you would play Resident Evil. You do not have 50 bullets. You do not have grenades. Like, when first-person shooters give you this scenario, you're, like, loaded in fucking weapons. Whereas Resident Evil 4 at the time, you were working with limited resources still. And the beauty of that level, the one thing that I feel like, how has this not been copied at all? Like, I can't think of one other game that's done this. And whatever, I'm sure someone's now suddenly going to find the one game that's done this. But, like, muzzle tov to you if you found it. And please, like, share it with us. Because, like, Resident Evil 4's Village, and this is one of the beautiful things, again, about what Resident Evil 4 is a varied game to the point where, like, you'll see an idea
and then
once,
never again.
And then the game will never return to that idea ever again because it's got even more ideas after that. Which is awesome.
Almost wish it did, though.
This is one of those ideas I wish it did. Because this is one of those ideas I'm like, oh my god, we could have done more things with this.
Yeah.
So, that scenario can become harder depending on decisions you make in the level. For instance, if you go into the one house with the shotgun in there, a chainsaw maniac and more mobs
horrifying
get added to the level. So the 20 you have to kill, plus more mob members and a chainsaw guy who is a bullet sponge.
And the only way you're going to get him is with the shotgun you just picked up.
With the shotgun. So again, it does it in a manner that, hey, you want this tool, I'm going to throw something at you that's going to make use of that tool instead of making this segment easier. Like, you're still going to get the experience I want you to have, but I'm being fair about it, right? If you try to leave that area early, more mob members come in, get added to the area. So it's like, fuck. And that's just like, that's more of a punishment, but it's a punishment for you being a bitch. So it's like, it's totally fair game. And then, just this cool thing was, if you climb the tower, because you think natural thing, I was like, oh, these idiots can't climb a giant stair.
They throw grenades at you.
They burn that shit to the ground. And then it's like, oh, fuck, I'm either gonna burn to death or they're all gonna kill me when I get down there. And it's like, how have we never seen this again in shooters?
Yeah, no, I
you know,
I don't
like,
know.
I don't want to spend the whole conversation talking about the Village, but, like,
we really
like,
could.
I think you can sum up, like, every single bit of design in Resident Evil 4 in that one, maybe 20-minute section. But, like, the thing that always gets me about it is not just, like, that the game adapts to what you're doing, but how much freedom you have as a player to approach that situation. There are so many different ways to play that part of the game. Like, that it's crazy. Like, do you stay in a house? Do you hunker down? Do you go up on a roof and start kicking ladders down and then shooting them as they climb up? Like, how...
yeah. Do you go behind the farm thing and just funnel them in through that one side and pick them apart?
Do you keep moving? Like, how do you play the Village? Like, that says a lot about, like, how you're going to approach Resident Evil 4. And the thing that always gets me, that I've always loved about that game, is how open-ended that one section is, and, like, kind of allows you to, like, feel it out and establish your play style while being rewarding and challenging at the same time.
And that ends up being, like, a lot of the best highlights of the game are just, like, this sequence, specific things are going to happen in this sequence, but you're given just enough breathing room. Like, it's still a scripted action game,
Yep.
But it's the way scripted action games should have been made post Resident Evil 4, which is, we're going to script the scenario, but it can play out a couple different ways depending on how you're playing it. Like, you could be efficient, or this can get really sloppy, and it can go a couple different ways, right?
I love getting sloppy.
You love getting sloppy.
I feel like, honestly, though, like if you have, like, a sloppy execution of the Village, like, that is way better than, like, doing it clean. Like, being forced to improvise and adapt on the spot is the best part of that game.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's, the joy of that game is, like, when you can do something emergent when things look like they were really bad. Like, the joy of any game is, like, when you're down to that last bar of health, and then you just clutch it from there on in.
Yeah,
like,
by the skin of your teeth.
Because then that's just, like, full on, nothing can take me down right now. Like, I just had that moment the other day in Mega Man X, and it was so fucking cool. Anyway, but, God, we could talk about Capcom at this point, but, where should we go from here? I think the other one is, okay, so at some point you're gonna get, actually, I want to talk about the environment a little bit. Back to how the enemies are supposed to be smarter, right? The other additions to the area are, like, traps, right? And, like, it's little things, but they're like bear traps, dynamite wires.
I died to a few of those, I still remember. Screaming, like, jumping so hard when I just blew up. And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah. And it's really cool. You get to free a little dog who comes back later and helps you with the boss fight.
Yeah, he does.
Resident Evil 4, awesome ideas, the video game.
Best dog in video games.
Yeah, he's way better than the Duck Hunt dog, because Duck Hunt dog's a dick.
Hey, it's that dog.
Yeah. Hey. We should talk about tone too. But the other thing, maybe not Resident Evil 4 is like greatest quality in hindsight, considering how lousy people think QuickTime events are. But
whoa, are you gonna trash talk?
I don't know, hell no. Because I think Resident Evil 4's QuickTime events are cool too.
I think that's like one of the few games where I can look at like every single instance of a QuickTime event, and I'm like, I have no problem with this.
Yeah, like I have no problem with them chasing a boulder, and this was just the only way they could come up with to keep it quick. I had no problem with that super badass fucking cutscene.
Yeah, the knife fight. Oh my god.
Mm.
And I think it might be because Resident Evil 4 was like the first game that actually like had quick time events in it. So when you're first playing it, like the novelty of having a playable cutscene was like, whoa, holy crap.
Oh, you mean first cutscene, not game.
First game that had quick time events or whatever.
Well, no,
it wouldn't be the
first exists, but like it's definitely the first one that like made them a core part of normal gameplay.
Well, no one played Shenmue, so no one cares about that.
Wow, but, like, really, guys? Listen, Shenmue sucks.
But like the integration of the QuickTime events in RE4 is so smart. Like they're only used in sequences where what you could, and this goes back to the limitations thing again, where what you need to do could not be done with the limitations based on the mechanics.
Yeah, like they still wanted to have the sequence, but they didn't. It couldn't work with the mechanics, so they found another way to make it work without sacrificing something that should have been gameplay.
Exactly.
Like everything they do is still reasonable, like cutscenes, whatever. Like they wanted to have a little fun, which at that point, considering how much fun you were having, you were perfectly fine giving up some bit of your fun so Shinji could have some fun with the cutscenes.
And Resident Evil 4 is so cool, like with the way you die. Sometimes I'm not even upset about missing up a quick time event. I want to see how like ridiculous ways Leon gets like impaled on a spike or whatever.
Yeah.
Went through every variation of the knife fight. Like every time I messed up to see what would happen.
Just to see.
Yeah, actually that's true. I did do that with a lot of that. Or not just deaths in Resident Evil 4 in general are good because it's just like, ooh, like he's just like, like suffocating on his blood at the end.
If you let the chainsaw guy decapitate you.
Yeah.
That's still good looking today, man.
Yeah.
Those little plant, the monster thingies that spout out of people's heads and like it sucks your face right off from its body.
Oh man, like the worst feeling in the world is
poor
like pulling off that headshot, and then like you do it on a couple guys, and then all three of them like sprout worms, and you're just like, oh crap.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like, no.
Yeah. Context here. Everyone in the village is infected by Las Plagas, which is the sequel to the T virus. And what it is they're infected with the parasite. So some of the enemies, if you shoot their face off, a monster-like thing comes out of their head. And like some of them have a giant worm. Other things had like this weird like spider thing. It was
like a crab thing. Yeah.
Yeah, creepy.
Yeah. And then there was another one that was like basically like a giant like scythe worm thing.
Oh man, those were the worst.
Yep.
Yeah, those motherfuckers could hit.
They had so much range.
Yeah.
And then 5 and 6 completely overdid it, but...
And then 5 and 6 ruined video games. But that comes back to what El Justice said about the quick turn. Because he has range, you're going to do a quick turn right now, get further away from that thing, and now start picking them apart from a distance. So, again, you always had the tool to handle the situation. The game just kept testing you on, like, things you learned, and, like... At some point, like, you find the president's daughter, and you have to, like, protect her. And the game becomes an escort mission, and this is supposed to be, like, Resident Evil 4 would be excellent if Ashley wasn't there. Fuck that.
This is the only escort mission that is enjoyable.
Everything
in the entire world.
Yeah, everything Resident Evil 4 did with its escort mission and Ashley is some excellent fucking game design, and it's like, I hate that it's completely... talked about like, oh, they didn't do it right. No, they did it great. Like, there was nothing wrong with Ashley in that game. First of all, you could put her in a dumpster. That is awesome on premise. Second of all, she listens. She's attached to you essentially at the hip. Like, you run, she runs. There's no random AI going. Like, this isn't Dead Rising where you're dependent on like this awful AI to believe in you, right? Like that's bad escort design. Like instead of putting that support AI at the mercy of the player, you put the player at the mercy of the support AI, which is like, no, don't do that.
No, yeah. Why am I failing? Because your game is shitty.
Yeah, exactly. And then like, and again, I think this should be appreciated just because we had just 2 years ago AAA classics, Game of the Year contenders, blah, 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 in The Last of Us and Bioshock Infinite, both good games. And both of them basically dodged the escort. Like, they basically cheated. Like, say what you want. Ellie is basically a non-factor in gameplay.
And Elizabeth exists to give you money and ammo.
Yeah, and Elizabeth is basically, like, further making that game easier than it is, but never being which, narrative-wise, in both of those games, considering how much they are about their immersion, like, those two characters end up breaking the immersion of that game so often. Whereas Resident Evil 4 is this primarily campy, cheesy thing, but then, like, Ashley, like is part of the game. She's an actual piece of gameplay. And
she's never removed to make it simpler on you because, hey, we want to do this cool encounter, but we can't figure out a way to do it with her there.
Yeah, Chris, what were you going to say?
Yeah, no, Resident Evil 4 seems to be the only one that has stricken that balance because, I mean, of the two options, I would rather a totally basically non-existent AI partner who doesn't affect the gameplay at all to a Dead Rising scenario where they're dragging me down forcibly.
I mean, yeah,
whereas
I agree,
Resident Evil 4 is Resident Evil 4 is that only one that there's an added tension of having that character there, but they aren't like, oh, for fuck's sakes, like if you were here, this would be fun.
Mm-hmm, yeah.
If anything, she makes it more fun that the fact that she's there because it like you can just blow people away all day with your shotguns, but keeping her as like a constant thought on your mind, it adds to almost Leon's vulnerability, like as the character.
Yeah, suddenly
it's that
like
one weak spot in your armor.
Exactly, like it's a new variable you have to adjust to. It's like you're a guardian for the rest of that game. You are a guardian. And it makes sense. Like you are loaded in terms of weapons, but she's completely fragile and almost useless at times. But like again, you can stop her dead in her tracks. Like, hey, you stand here. I'm gonna go forward a little bit and kill these motherfuckers. Like, there's that one part in the next area in that game is the castle, which, oh god, it's maybe the greatest fucking area in a video game ever. In my opinion, like, me and Alex have had this discussion before. He's pro village. Not that he's like me. There's no part of Resident Evil 4 that's bad. But I am all about the castle. Like, I think the castle is the best part of any video game maybe ever. Because it's just so awesome.
Before you start on that,
go.
Let's talk about one more mechanical thing. The attaché case.
All right, the best inventory system ever made.
I feel like we need to talk about like how it did inventory systems right.
Yeah. For anyone that's made it to the 50-minute mark of this podcast, because I think that's where we're at right now, and you're like, God, I hope they don't splooge over Resident Evil 4 all day. You're gonna get more.
That's gonna happen.
Like, it's literally like at some point,
just let it wash over you.
Yeah, at some point, me and Aljosa will maybe listen to some criticism that will be thrown at Resident Evil 4. But we assure you, me and Aljosa will act like it doesn't exist.
What criticism?
Yeah, that's what I mean. But anyway, the point I was trying to say is, God, yeah, the attach case is so good. Aljosa, you want to handle the attach case?
Chris, you go for it. Yeah,
Chris, you got it. Because Aljosa's here to say
it's almost like a puzzle, like a jigsaw puzzle.
Yeah.
It's just about like switching the right items.
Mm-hmm. What it is. Your case carries all your weapons, your ammo, your healing items, any special items that you've picked up.
Chicken, eggs, fish.
Exactly, and it's basically a rectangular case, and it has slots. So each thing takes up a certain amount of slots. So like a shotgun would take up probably 8 slots, and an egg would take up 1. So what you have to, and you can rotate everything to take up how you want to do it. So what you have to do throughout the game is balance your inventory in such a way that you're carrying as much as you can and losing as little as possible while still making it easy to access because, hey, oh crap, I need to get to my shotgun.
And eventually it does get bigger because you're going to get bigger items in the game. And the other beautiful things it did was because the game was now more action-centric and wasn't about all this item management in the sense that you're managing one single environment, puzzle pieces and, like, all that stuff became their own little thing, like their own little part of the inventory, which was they just did not affect what you could carry in terms of weapons, right?
Right.
Which, a simpler game in comparison to Remake, but not one that took away anything from the game at the end of the day. Because if anything, it helped facilitate the type of pacing Resident Evil 4 was going for. And further to that point, logical things like Leon is going to buy a fucking vest. The vest is just something he wears, as opposed to the vest taking up a spot in the inventory. Yeah. Because somehow Resident Evil 5's inventory is the vest, so the vest goes in your vest. Fuck you, yeah. Resident Evil 5.
That was so dumb.
Oh god. But yeah, anyway, I don't know how much else there is to say about the Attaché case, but like the way it forced you to manage your items and choose what was really important to you and what you wanted to upgrade, what weapons you were going to hold on to for an extended period of time, all that stuff was just, it was fantastic.
A lot of times I ended up giving up a little bit of ammo to keep certain guns because I just wanted that extra gun, because like because to me all the guns had a specific use at some point.
Right.
Like, the TMP was great for me. Revolvers were basically get out of boss free cards sometimes.
And then, you've got the starting pistol, which, like, initially not the most statistically impressive until you upgraded special, which is critical hits all day.
Yeah, headshots every day.
Oh my god. If we're talking about upgrades...
with the attaché case, too, you can, like, inspect every item, and even, like, flip them around and shit. I'm like, what the hell's the point of that, yeah? You can, like, inspect the upside part of the bullets, and like, they actually put this in the game. Wow.
You never know.
Yeah, you could like inspect an egg. You'd inspect a golden egg, a brown egg. God, that game even had eggs.
And the eggs were useful, man. You never passed up an egg if you had the room.
Hell no, yeah, because that was an herb I didn't have to use. That was a first aid spray I didn't have to use. Fish, I made so much room just for fish. Because I was like, no, fuck this, free health. Like, what? No. Because I was still playing it like Resident Evil, and whatever. By the end, like, I hoarded maybe too many items, which which to me always happened in all the Resident Evil games. So, like, I never enjoyed that knock. Well, by the end of Resident Evil 4, you have so much shit. I'm like, I was that way in Resident Evil 1, 2, 3, and Code Veronica.
I'm that way in every game.
0.
It's like, you should use
better
this.
Be safe than sorry.
Yeah.
It's like,
by the way, we need to have a podcast on that, because I have an interesting thought on that, but that's neither here nor there.
Got to keep that rocket launcher just in case.
I have something that you guys need to see on that. I'll pull it up real quick, but keep going.
I was gonna say, where were we? I was like, all right, because since someone brought up upgrades, I'm like, let's talk about the second greatest character in Resident Evil history. Number 1 being Barry. Number 2 is the Merchant, who is timeless at this point, who I adore.
Not enough cash. Strange.
He had so much personality, man. Like, just...
in, like, 5 lines
for
of
real.
dialogue.
Oh, man.
Yeah, exactly. In 5 lines of dialogue. But he's like, this
what
ultimate...
you buying?
I'll buy it at a high price. What are you selling? Got a lot of good things on sale, stranger.
I always killed him, yeah. I always killed the guy just for fun.
Yo, you're messing. What the hell's
wrong with
you?
He
always has the funniest dying moan. He's like, ugh. She just falls over you.
What was hilarious to me is you are fighting tooth and nail to get to where you are. This guy is always one step ahead of you. Like, how did he get there?
Yeah, and he has no ammo either. He doesn't fucking sell it.
Dude, of course he has ammo. Have you seen him open his vest? It's just like...
So why can't I buy it?
Lines of...
Because he doesn't
Because he
ammo.
needs to meet you at the next area,
What a jerk,
man.
yo.
Yo, wait, time out. Wait, time out. First of all, he does
guy
sell
sells
you...
me guns with no ammo, yeah?
No, that's not true. First of all, every gun you buy from him has ammo in it. And second of all, when you upgrade the capacity of your gun, he gives you those free bullets.
Yeah.
So yeah, fuck you. He gives you ammo. He just won't give you any extra ammo because he's got to make it to the next spot of the game, too, man.
Yeah, but I killed him, so what the hell then?
Time out.
Why can't I loot his corpse?
Time out. If they ever made a Resident Evil 4, like, add-on that was you playing as the Merchant, shooting your way through the game.
Oh my
Resident
God.
Evil 4, the Merchant Edition.
Yeah, why the fuck didn't they put him in Mercenaries, yeah?
Specifically to the part where, damn, something we found a flaw in Resident Evil 4. Anyway, to the parts where Leon is about to buy him. Like, that would be the game. He's just going to places until Leon's ready to buy stuff from him.
Can you imagine?
Like
Goggin.
Yeah.
So this is the game.
Version of Resident Evil 4, yeah.
You're playing the merchant. You have, like, all these guns, right? And you have to be like, you're on a timer. There's somebody in a helicopter talking to you, like, all right, he's making his way through this part of the island. You got to get there before he does.
Yeah.
I would play that game.
That one's free, much. Capcom. You're welcome.
Yeah.
If you kill him on professional, then come back to that spot, he doesn't return, so he's gone for good.
You're such a
he shouldn't be coming back. Why are you killing the merchant?
Why would this guy?
I kill all NPCs in games. I kill everyone in Dark Souls. Yeah, you guys.
Yeah, but no one's likable in Dark Souls. Yeah, that's why you failed
Dark Souls 2.
No, because Dark Souls 2 sucks.
That's why you failed Dark Souls 2.
He is your only friend on this island of asshole snake monsters.
Clearly not. Who's my friend to get me for free, yo? Not make me buy for it. What kind of friend is that?
A friend who believes in
capitalism, yo.
The American values like capitalism.
Yeah, he's bringing capitalism to shitty ass Europe.
Whoa, man.
Apologies to all our European listeners. Did he drop? I think he did. Oh my god.
He got so offended.
So, Goggin, maybe now you want to talk about Tone and the castle and all that fun stuff.
Yeah, Tone. So what's weird about Resident Evil 4 is in this, it's not that it's super serious, but early on, it's this really atmospheric, tense game. And oh my god, there's so many sequences we just didn't talk about.
Then it just goes.
Then it goes to this fucking camp town in the freaking castle.
Oh man!
But in the
even before that, once you meet Louis Sarah, then the game goes off the rails.
Yeah, that's true. But it goes off the rails in such a cool way.
I see the president has equipped his daughter with ballistics.
Yeah.
Rude! Or whatever she said to him.
Rude! Yeah, as soon as that guy showed up.
Actually, even at the end of the village section, at the beginning, where's everyone going? Bingo?
Yeah. Oh my god, Leon's one-liners. Yeah. He just on one level,
he just massacres a town.
Not to defend Resident Evil 4's writing or anything, but
it is the best kind of B-movie writing you could possibly have.
It's camp, and it's good Capcom camp. It's not my wife is my bionic arm camp. It is.
Oh my god!
It is
my wife.
Capcom, why?
These stupid shit talking fucking assholes. We have a podcast to finish. Anyway, I'm trying to finish this game. Be professional.
All right, I'm good.
This is so dumb. This is so dumb. I just read what Ochoa wrote.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
I think Chris might have to mute himself. Anyway, what I was saying was, the whole game, Leon's talking to Hunnigan, who's, his dispatch from, a walkie-talkie, but it works like the Metal Gear Solid codex, and you can see these two people talking in, a ghetto, screen, right? Because that's how walkie-talkies work. And, at some point, the bad guys cut into his transmission, and he's shit-talking with the bad guys in it, where the one guy's like, I'll send my right hand after you, or whatever, and he's like, your hand comes off, and it's oh, Leon, you're the best.
Oh my god.
But it works in that game, because that game is so tense and, really, just white-knuckle action. There's always a lot of pressure on the player, but, that camp works to juxtapose the tone of that game, because it softens you up for these really unsettling gameplay sequences, whereas Evil Within, not to make that comparison, but as fun as I enjoyed it and as much as I like its atmosphere for fucking with the player, there's no juxtaposition in that game,
right?
You know what I mean, it's playing it deadly serious to the point where it's man, yo, Sebastian, you're 10 years after Leon Kennedy. You don't got half as much personality, though. A quarter as much personality.
I guess you could say he's small time.
Oh my god. Are you a Resident Evil 4 writer?
He probably was.
So that's a goal. Remember, he says, Sally, you're small time.
Yeah, so sorry.
Yeah, bro.
So, like, talking about the tense things that you said, Goggin, the tense areas of that game, like it's the right hand, right?
Yeah. So well, that and a few others, but like the one I want to get, because I want to go back to the village part of the game. The other beauty of Resident Evil 4, like we mentioned that it's varied, right? Like it's varied. Like there's
this
always.
This guy said other, implying there's only 2.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Implying we haven't been like going on.
Yeah,
for
we
like
haven't
an
used
hour.
the word cabin like a bunch, but like we said, Resident Evil 4 will have an idea or a gameplay sequence, and then never have that sequence ever again for the rest of the game. Like it'll just have these kind of sequences in the game. The other reason it works, besides like just how well thought the encounter designs are, which we've already gone over, is that you have this tool and everything that's put in front of you is specifically designed around testing your handling of that tool, right? The other beauty of it is build-up. And what I mean by that is, specifically as you keep bringing up, Chris, the cabin. When you think of the cabin, it's a sequence where Leon and Luisera are inside this closed house, and there's going to be enemies coming from all sides. Like, they've surrounded that house at this point.
Yep.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
And Ashley's going to be taken out of the equation for this fight because it's the more reasonable thing to do. She's going to go hide in a closet.
Exactly.
So, you don't even have to do that, but, like, that's just a natural thing that's happened in that game before, so it's like, it's perfectly fine. It doesn't feel out of place when it happens. And before they come through, you the player, and Luisera are going to set up the house. Like, you're gonna set up the perimeter. You're gonna put bookcases in front of windows and all that shit, and he's gonna throw you some ammo. You're gonna grab the stuff that's in the house, the herbs, the bullets, yada yada yada. And now, if this was Call of Duty, Halo, a shitload of other shooters that have come after Resident Evil 4, Gears of War, Uncharted, you name them, they would all, those enemies would be knocking over the bookcase, shootout starts, right?
Yeah.
Where Resident Evil 4 is different, and this is why it's able to stay tense, is it builds it up. Like, a good 5 minutes, it feels like 5 minutes, probably like a minute or two.
Yeah.
But like, a good few minutes of that is just them pounding on the door, them pounding on the window, them pounding on the walls. The music's getting louder and louder and louder, and it's like that great movie scene where the guy is ready, gun loaded, you can see the sweat falling down. Right? And like, it's building up to this moment, and as you, the player, your heart's gonna beat a little bit faster. You're just gonna be like, at this point, your thumbs are on those sticks, like ingrained into those sticks, like ready to pull the trigger on the first person that like is dumb enough to show their face, right?
Yeah.
And that's among the many reasons why Resident Evil 4's encounters are brilliant, because it takes the time to let a scenario marinate. And what's been lost all these years later is sometimes they just throw a scenario at you, and it could be varied, it could be interesting, it could be fun, but it wasn't built up. Like, you didn't even get me time to like really settle in and like buy into the scenario. You sort of just threw it at me sometimes, right? Resident Evil 4, like, it gave you that whole time to think about it. Like,
and
really
yeah, that's the benefit of only doing, if you're going to do a scenario, do it once, is I feel like games will have a good idea and they'll just give it to you, and then they'll give it to you again and again and again. So it just kind of loses its...
But it's one of those things, like, you'll never forget the cabin after you've played Resident Evil 4.
You never forget the village after you played Resident Evil 4, because like, it was the only time it happened in that game.
Exactly, yeah. And you're just like... And it's good for replay value, because you're like, I need to replay this entire game to get to each of those intense moments. I can't just play like an hour of it and then it's like, yeah, I've played basically the rest of the game.
And, the other thing, we talk about pacing a lot and knowing when not to use a segment over again. But I think something that gets overlooked in the brilliance of Resident Evil 4's design is that it knows how long to make those segments. Because the village doesn't overstay its welcome. It's not too short. It's not too long. It lasts exactly as long as it needs to before you get to the next section. Same with the cat.
No, it's too short, bro. The entire game is too short. Should have 50 hours.
Let me finish. Same thing with the cabin. Like, just when you are at that point where I'm running out of ammo, I cannot do this, I have no health, you win.
Yeah, or, as the game puts it, the villagers come up with a reason to go away. Which,
they're going to bingo.
Yeah, they go to bingo again. It's like a little things like that about it are a little gamey, because if you're looking at it on a logical standpoint, you go, man, both of these times they had Leon dead to rights, probably in the long run. But you're like, whatever, it's a video game, fuck it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's a great point. That's a great point, because I'm starting to think about it. I can't think of one Resident Evil 4 sequence that I think drags.
Mm-hmm.
And that's also the good point of having a kind of a varied tone that isn't always overly serious, because you can kind of chalk those, just kind of fluff them off as, oh, well, it is a video game. Where if it's constantly overly somber and serious, then those moments are kind of like, well, you could have gone all the way.
Video game logic ruins games that are super serious and immersive, because it's like, no, you want it to be this thing. Now I'm going to judge you on this. The Last of Us, brilliant game, but that one part with the sniper, right?
Yeah.
The fact that you can't snipe him out of that window because A, it's a scripted sequence that requires you to get to the cutscene, and B, because when you look at that window, there's no actual person using the gun.
No.
It's just a gun. And that's completely immersion breaking at that. At that point, you've broken the illusion entirely, and it's a silly thing that ruined this illusion.
Yeah, because
I hate that. I hated that part too. I was I'm playing a video game. Damn it!
My first instinct in that situation was to shoot the guy in the window. That's what I went for. I got behind a car and I was like, "Let me get my rifle. I can take this guy."
Because it would make that sequence so easy, but you'd feel so cool about it.
Yeah,
but he's not there.
But he's not there. But and the other thing about Resident Evil 4, when we talk about tone and not being serious, is it knows how to bring it down after an intense thing like that. You've got that whole intense thing with the cabin, and then you've got Louise, oh, I see the president has equipped his daughter with ballistics, and you're like, oh my god, Louise. And then you keep going. And it knows when to lighten it up and let you laugh and then keep going.
And it's got that great ebb and flow and pacing, it's got this nice peaks and valleys things going on the entire game. You'll go do right after that village sequence, that intense one at the very beginning of the game. The rest of that sequence is you're just going to explore that area, go find the missing items, and just relax now. You've gotten a chance to think about it. Whereas again, a lot of these AAA games, it's set piece, and it all becomes white noise. Quiet time is a lost art to a lot of games, and I think it's only recently sort of been making a bit of a comeback in certain games. The Last of Us, a lot of what makes the pacing work in that game is specifically the quiet time, because you got to have that juxtaposition, right?
I feel like
the drafts.
Yeah, I feel like The Evil Within was good at that too.
Yeah, I think The Evil Within was actually really good with that as well, and to an extent, Alien.
Yeah, I was thinking. I mean,
other than the second half, but part of what makes that game work is specifically because it spends an hour or two just being quiet. It doesn't bombard you with anything. It is willing to be subtle, and Resident Evil 4 isn't necessarily a game you would instantly think for its subtlety, because it's not really subtle, but it knew when to at least be subtle enough.
Right. And
yeah,
the thing, and I feel like it's the same thing with Alien, like you said, that intense sequence where you get it out of the airlock and you do this whole crazy alarm sounding, you're ah. And then after that, you just walk around for a little bit. And I feel
just walk around now. Yeah,
it's a very Resident Evil 4 thing to do, where it's
time out while we're saying the walking thing. Let's be clear here: walking normal game speed, not bullshit forced cinematic walking.
No, Bayonetta has cinematic.
You
walking.
Set the pace as the player, which is why those segments work. Because the game doesn't force you to be okay, you're gonna have quiet time now. It's no, I can go and walk over here and I can do this thing, and it's at my own pace, and I kind of tell the game, okay, I'm ready to go on to the next area now.
Yeah, that is just God. Resident Evil 4, so brilliant, and back to the pacing. Another thing that game does really well is after the castle's the island area, right? Mm-hmm. After this, we're just going to talk about some of the best moments in that game, just because, I feel that's the thing we need to do.
Yeah.
But I want to talk about, game in broad strokes before we get to, oh my fucking god, that part was so cool! Anyway, the island is widely regarded as the weakest part of the game, and to an extent I agree, but only in the sense that it's the weakest part of a masterpiece that happens to be great across the fucking board. Like, what? Like, yeah, the freaking, I'm trying to think of like certain things. Like the fucking water temple theme is the worst theme in Ocarina of Time. Oh, it just happens to be all the fucking music in that game is amazing. So I'm failing to see the knock here, Mm-hmm. But and
what was wrong with the island?
The castle and village are better. That's the only thing wrong with the island.
It's
but
not the
some people argue that the island is specifically when it runs out of ideas, and I am going to say bullshit. First of all, the island is home to the Iron Maiden and the Regenerator, which are the creepiest fucking part of that entire game.
Really, the only not 100% perfect part of the island was the big black dudes with the machine guns. Everything else was fine.
Okay, first of all, we're gonna get to
the knock.
Wait, and like people forget that during the island you do that thing where you're on the back of that truck fighting a bunch of dudes. That's something you didn't do the rest of the game. It's the closest thing to a rail sequence Resident Evil 4 has, and it's not even a rail sequence because it's actually good and fun. You get your Miley Cyrus on and fucking wreck people with a wrecking ball. All right, beast.
Yeah, that was great.
Those motherfuckers with the chain guns that everyone thinks, I personally think they were fun as hell. Because, like, you're sniping them. You can knock their fucking hat off.
Little details.
Yeah.
Little details count, The Krauser fight.
Yeah. Krauser.
Like, the actual Krauser boss fight is the part of the island.
Yeah, I like how you can wreck him with your knife, so easily.
Yeah. U3, which I want to say is it and not the right hand, right?
Yeah.
The right hand is Verdugo. Right. So it is the boss fight you fight on the island. Great sequence, by the way. And then there's a jet ski segment, and there's Mike the chopper guy, who after this entire game you've been just getting your ass kicked in certain spots, or whatever, or fighting this tense sequence. You finally have a guy who's got your back wrecking the town for you, right?
Yeah.
Only to die the saddest death in video game history. The most gut-wrenching death.
God damn, good night, sweet prince.
For real, like, there is not a worse series to be a helicopter pilot in than Resident Evil. If you touch a helicopter at that point,
you're dead.
You are
dead. Christ, you died bad deaths in Resident Evil when you touch a helicopter.
Like, unless it is the very end of the game, you are dead. Do not go near that helicopter. It is bad. It is a clever ruse.
It's unfortunate too, because that whole game I was wondering, when's my backup getting here? I feel like this is an escalating situation.
If only they had drone strikes back then.
You know what's great? Oh, come on, man. I said, you know what's great? Resident Evil 4, like, you finally get back up. It was one dude in a chopper.
Like, not helpful.
For the president's daughter.
Yeah, not helpful. Can I get a fucking army, please?
Oh, God, Resident Evil 4. The other beautiful thing, and Phil brought this up to me the other day, and it's like, I can't believe I forgot this detail about Resident Evil 4. So, like, you know the part where Leon passes out after, like, the El Lago fight? Another great fucking part of the game.
Yes.
Yep.
Fuck!
What was all a dream after?
No.
Oh my God.
The part where he's like, he's finally talks to Hunnigan, and like, Hunnigan is his dispatch, and this guy is hunting the president's daughter, and they lose contact with him for a good few hours. Instead of sending someone, they were like, oh, we just kept calling you.
Yeah.
Because it's only the president's daughter. And it's like Resident Evil 4 was Bad Boys 2 before Bad Boys 2.
I mean, come on, bro. At the mission, they're sending one guy in the first place, so they clearly aren't really smart people in charge, man.
I'm just saying, it's like...
Sure that one guy might be the world's greatest superhero bisexual, but that's besides the point.
Hey, man.
Still one dude.
Leon is hetero all the way.
We're like, we need to give this at least 48 hours to make sure he's dead before we send someone else.
Like, before we send one more other person.
Yeah.
Yo.
We can't waste all of our forces.
I just imagine that discussion being like, we've lost contact. It's okay, we have top men working on it. Who? Top men.
To be fair, they did send out like 2 extraction helicopters, but they both got shot down by Sadler and his
it's the
goons,
worst game to be a helicopter pilot in.
Oh yeah, that's right. There's a second helicopter that gets destroyed.
It's not just the one, man. You lose like 3 helicopters in that game.
Yeah, but that other guy wasn't Mike, man. Mike was
a bro.
Mike was, he's like what Jeff was in Uncharted 2. It's like, fuck, man. I felt so bad there in that part. I'm like, he got fucked over because of Nathan Drake and his stupid bitch.
Yeah.
All he wanted to do was be a cameraman in his life. This is bullshit.
Yeah.
Jan will never get that beard that was promised to him by Mike. Yeah, never get that beard.
Fuck. So we were supposed to have a beard, man. Oh, god damn it. Anyway,
depressing.
That Resident Evil 4 really is a powerful experience.
Yeah, tearjerker.
Oh god, I think we've talked about every gameplay thing about Resident Evil 4. Atmosphere is great. Come on. If I was gonna pretend to have a knock, a lot of the boss fights are quick time event dependent, but I always thought they were good. I like the Salazar fight. A lot of everything's you've seen right in front of you.
Yeah.
And then when the quick time events come up, they're some of them are super abrupt and quick, but I was always prepared, I guess. But I've also played that game so many times, now it's become muscle memory to me. So it's maybe if I was playing it fresh again, I might have died on some of those.
On the first try, I remember some of them snuck up on me, and I wasn't expecting some cheap deaths the first time.
Okay, so maybe it could have done quick time events a little bit better. 9.8 out of 10, whatever.
Yeah, it's just because you're
99%.
It's just because you're entranced in the cutscene, and at no point was it that would be even more game breaking or immersion breaking if it's yo, by the way, cutscene coming up.
Yeah. So the other thing I wanted to say, and then we can get into, hey, remember that one part? Back to what Will said. Yeah, we are. Back to what Will said about Last of Us, or with that sniper guy. Part of the reason Naughty Dog wouldn't do it is because, then their entire scenario is made easy, right? Resident Evil 4 was never afraid of doing that.
Right.
You could take the Vertugo fight, right, and freeze him and hit him with a rocket launcher you can buy from the merchant right before the fight.
And win instantly.
And just win instantly instead of fighting him the hard way. And that was just and you just feel cool as fuck when you did it, because you were yeah, suck it, bitch. Yeah. Because it's you outthought the game at that point. I'm better than the director. He didn't think I'd think like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And the Salazar fight's another one. There's a merchant right before him, and you just go, if you died, I'm do I really need to fight him, or do I want to get my goddamn rocket launcher and make this quick? Oh, I'm going to take a rocket launcher, and I'm going to make this quick.
I took a rocket launcher on that fight. No shame.
Yeah. What's beautiful about that, though, is then later on, the Krauser fight, if you've now cheated the game, the Krauser fight is no, bitch. I block rockets. Yeah. You're gonna fight me straight up. And it's Shinji Mikami even know, listen, I threw you a bone. Yeah, I'm not letting you have it all the way through. Yeah. But it's one of those things, I feel sometimes video games are we're gonna give you this hard segment, and it's just gonna be hard. You're not gonna be able to game it. Yeah. And it's they lose something, because in Resident Evil 4, you feel slick when you do it. You feel clever as a player to, look at these, look at all the tools at your disposal and go, I could do this a hard way, or I could completely be a bitch and get out of this. And
go full ninja dog.
Being a bitch, and go full ninja dog, but again, it's still a great feeling when you do it, just because you were I outsmarted the game. Fuck you, game. So who wants to lead with, hey, remember that part?
Yo, that regenerator, though?
Oh, the fucking hissing noise they do!
This, honestly, I remember being a kid, and the second I heard that, I paused the game and just, have to, psych myself up for a few minutes and say, okay, he's here. Just be cool.
Just be cool, honey bunny, be cool.
Yeah. That was some scary stuff. And then, the Iron Maidens. When that guy, pops out and he's on fire, I remember screaming. That was so...
Man. What's great is, at this point, you've gotten used to, the Regenerator. He's gonna pull you in. He's gonna start biting on you. So next time the Iron Maiden does it, you're okay, whatever. This is just gonna be... And it just whips out spikes and you're dead. Yeah. And you're oh... Yeah. I don't have, and it's great again because Shinji Mikami set you up with, I'm gonna give you a few seconds to learn this type of enemy, and you're gonna take this as a brief punishment, but not a major one. And then the next time I throw it at you, it's a bigger punishment. Now you better be playing this better. You need to do this better now.
Yeah.
As opposed to how you were fighting him earlier, and it's that's just cool shit. Like, just next level thinking across the board. So good.
You know, I'm gonna be the guy, and I can't believe, like, in this podcast, we haven't brought it up once, considering we bring it up all the time. El Gigante? Anybody?
I love El Gigante. I love El Gigante. I love all 3 segments with El Gigante.
That is actually probably the most iconic.
It's on the freaking cover,
image,
man.
Yeah, of that game.
Back part of the game, yeah, he is there.
Yeah, the most iconic part of Lord of the Rings.
Hey, it looks better than the troll from Lord of the Rings.
Cave troll.
Yeah, but he looks better than Resident Evil 4 is better than Lord of the Rings.
A lot of walking RE4 too.
And
good kind of walking.
Like there's a bad kind of walking.
Don't you dare!
He's still taking a walk through the woods, yo. Jolly voyage to find the president's daughter.
Oh, he's ruining this game for me. Stop. Don't do this. This is the cruelest thing you'll ever do.
And at the end, he throws the ring into the fires of Mount Doom.
And you know, I'm probably
okay. Now you ruined it, so that's good.
The left hand is the one where you have to use the cold, right? Or is it the right hand?
The left eye of Sauron?
No, the right hand. The right
hand more than one.
The right hand is the one you fight. It's Vertugo. The left hand is part of the Salazar.
Right.
They just fuse. The right hand is the guy you have to freeze.
That part is amazing. That whole section.
That part was legit.
Yeah. The whole thing. Actually, let's talk about both of them because like El Gigante shows up on 3 different occasions. One of them is totally optional. The other 2 are mandatory. But they're all so different from each other. Like,
whoever says that game isn't scary, yo, can fuck off, yo.
That game isn't that scary.
Yo, first time I was playing, I got to the regenerator part.
Yeah.
And I didn't know about the X-ray scope and whatever.
Oh man.
So I was shooting this dude and the motherfucker is regenerating and shit. And then just through war of attrition, I finally be able to kill one, and then more coming. Oh my god.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
It's scary. It's more tense. Like really just relentless sometimes.
Yeah.
Isn't that how like movies like Alien are? They're tense, not really scary.
Yeah,
I mean,
right. I agree. No, I agree.
Same with like The Shining. It's the best horror movie of all time, but it's never really scary.
I don't know, I would say that there are segments in The Shining that are.
The Exorcist is a nice comedy, yeah.
No, it's not. Get out of here. Exorcist the scariest.
It's a nice comedy, bro.
Yo, fuck, not even hearing your bullshit right now. Anyway, I was gonna say...
Look in your heart, you know it to be true.
I was gonna say to El Joseph's point, before he said hot garbage, was that you could fight the regenerator without the infrared thing, which is a part of
Well, technically you can. I mean, you can go through the caves in Pokemon without using Flash, but would you want to do that? Fuck no.
Here's the difference. A, Mikami trusts the player to, hey, you should have found it, or they'll find it eventually, but he still made the regenerator something you could kill, right? But it was going to cost you a lot of ammo, which at that point in the game, you do have a lot of ammo in the game. Like, you have a lot of ammo you could burn through that guy. And he stays an incredibly tense fight throughout the sequence. So, like, it was still doable, it's just super hard. You know, and I don't necessarily look at that as a bad thing. And where were we? El Gigante. 3 different sequences. The first one, you're in, like, this big open field, right? He's throwing rocks at you, boulders, sorry. And he's swinging trees at you. And, like, you're shooting it on the ground, having this fight with this big beast. The dog comes as a distraction.
Yeah, he does.
And, like, you cut him open and knife the shit out of this Plagas on his back. Because apparently a big ogre monster also needed to get infected to be scary, which whatever.
I don't know if he was, like, that big before.
I think it was, like, the fact that his Las Plagas is freaking huge.
Yeah, sure, that could be it. The second one comes after the cabin sequence, which you could split into 2 paths. One path leads you to a group of enemies, including 2 Chainsaw Sisters.
Yep.
Fucking awesome. And the other path leads you down this, like, more, like, claustrophobic, like, area. Like, it's very, tight area that you need to run past one of the El Gigantes, and what you do is you drop boulders on him.
Yeah, did you ever get to do that? I always missed it, never got it, so I just fucking ran through. I was like, screw this.
Or you could run right through it, but I didn't suck at video games, so I dropped boulders on him, and I whooped his ass. And then after I killed El Gigante's bitch
you whooped
ass,
his ass with a boulder, yo. What a man.
Whatever. 3 times, bro. Anyway, after I whooped his ass, I went down the other path and beat up the twin sisters because I wanted all that loot. Because there's mad gold and treasure.
There is,
anyway.
yeah.
What do you play, Resident Evil 4 or Diablo?
Yeah, genocidal maniac.
Loot as in, like, loot. Like, treasure loot, man. Not fucking, oh, look at my magenta sword. It's got plus 75 wisdom.
What is that accent?
I felt like messing with the nerd voice. Anyway, the last one had too much of a lisp, so that's the new one I'm going with. And then, like, the third time you see them, you gotta fight 2 of them.
2.
And
that's
you could fight them the hard way, or you cheat and you drop one of them in hot fucking lava.
Yo, the first time I got close to the lava thing, and the dude ran up out of there and grabbed me. I jumped up and threw my controller at the screen. First time I played, but it was one of those old CRT TVs, so it was made with like nuclear steel or whatever, so you can't break it anyway.
It could take it. It could take the punishment.
And then Vertugo is like an evolution of Mr. X, who's really that. Like when you think about it, besides the fact that he looks like a goddamn cross between Alien and Predator.
But you can't kill him, so it's all good.
Yeah. What I'm saying, but he's indestructible until you freeze him.
Yeah.
Like, you can't beat him bullets. You have to freeze his ass.
And
then you have to shoot him. Or you rocket launcher his ass like a bitch.
Like
yeah, good times.
But, like, that whole sequence is, again, like, this is another sequence where, like, Resident Evil 4 built it up. Because you're walking down that whole hallway, and, like, he attacks you suddenly in QuickTime events, but you can dodge it. And, like, it takes a while until you get to the end of the hallway and open the elevator or whatever until, like, he actually shows up. And that fight can end a couple different ways. You can either just hold him off.
That entire, like, section reminded me, like, a cross between Predator and Alien.
Yeah.
Because, like, he's a Predator, like, you're seeing it through his like, vision or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
And then the entire, like, industrial zone kind of reminds me of Alien, the spaceship.
Yeah.
So it's pretty neat.
And what's, like, awesome about it is, like, you could either beat him the hard way, the rocket launcher way, or you just have to live long enough for the elevator to show up, and then you just run away from him. So you could effectively beat Resident Evil 4 while never beating Vertugo.
More choices than a Mass Effect game.
Oh.
And it's like, it's in a linear corridor, though. Like, when you think of that sequence, it's like it's all corridors.
Yeah.
But we have 1,000 corridor shooters almost, like, since Resident Evil 4. None of them do things like this half the time.
Resident Evil 4, the best Predator game ever.
We're still trying to catch up to Resident Evil 4.
Yeah. The fucking this will be the last one, then we can move on to where, like, Capcom, Resident Evil, and third-person shooters went, but the guys with the claws, the blind guys.
Yeah.
The original Berserkers. For whatever reason, Gears of War has made those guys Berserkers.
Yeah, that game even made collectathons fun. You're collecting all those pieces and shit to open the doors, and even that was fun in that game.
Getting the bug jewels. Oh, the invisible at bugs. They were fun, and they had, like, a great tell. You could hear them, like, running through the area, so you already knew without, like, ever seeing them for the first time, something dangerous is around the corner. Because I just heard it.
I let them kill me just so they can, like, burn my face with acid. Yeah, that was good times.
It's messed up.
It's fucked up.
Or like cut your head off with their claws. That was a great deaths.
So
Sadler probably isn't good enough of a boss fight to finish off Resident Evil 4.
Probably not. Yo, that guy existed to take rockets.
Yeah. It was a fun fight, but it's like, man,
that was his job.
Resident Evil 4 is, I feel like that was the worst situation to be in, was being the final boss of that game.
You knew it was going to be a letdown.
It was like, it wasn't even that, like, it's not even like, now when we think of, like, bad endings, Resident Evil 4's final boss wouldn't make any list for me.
No. It's a normal video game ending.
Yeah, and it's fun. No, if anything, it's a good one. Like, I think it's a good boss fight. It's just like, Resident Evil 4 is excellent.
Yeah, everything leading up to it, Krauser.
Yeah.
And then all those parts right before.
Yeah, he suffers from Metroid Prime 3 syndrome of the things that came before him were so much better that, like, he had no chance of living up to it. Whereas, like, other boss fights in video games suffer from, this part sucks.
It was still satisfying too, yeah. Even because, like, he was a prick the entire game.
He killed Lewis.
Yeah, he killed Luis, yo. What a legend. And then
the part you play as Ashley is really good.
And then fuck that part. I don't like that part.
You wouldn't either. Well, I like it because it's so different from the rest of the game.
I liked it until
the sliding puzzle.
Yeah, 13-year-old me playing a sliding puzzle. Nah, man, that's no bueno, senor.
To be fair,
make it through the game.
To be fair, 87-year-old, which is you right now, probably can't handle sliding puzzles either.
That is true.
So, Aljosa's in that old man stage of life.
Where he quits everything.
All I play is RPGs now. I have no more reflexes for shoot bang games and cut slash games.
Yeah. So, as we established, Resident Evil 4 is basically like, if it's not, whatever, I think it's the best third-person shooter ever made. And in my opinion, it's the best Resident Evil. I would take it over Remake. And none of the other ones come close to competing with Resident Evil 4 for me.
Resident Evil 5's up there, I'm just kidding.
Oh my god.
Which is where I'm going with this. Then the sequels to Resident Evil 4 happen, and...
What do you mean sequels? There's only one, Resident Evil 5. Nothing came after.
There were 2 sequels, and one of them is supremely dog shit, and the other one is
worse.
It is It is fun in co-op. I understand people had fun, but let's be fair here. If a certain franchise sets the bar yay high, and I don't care if the last game might be one of our greatest games of all time or something, Resident Evil 5 couldn't live up to just a normal great game.
How the fuck is that being fair to the game?
That is totally fair.
You're comparing it to Resident Evil 4. That's not fair.
Because it wasn't even great. It wasn't, and I stand by this, it wasn't even good.
I disagree. Yo, Will, back me up. Back me up.
Will's here, whatever.
I'm sorry,
no one's backing you up.
But I don't think it's that good of a game.
Resident Evil 5 is great, right, Will?
No, it's not. No.
Exactly, yo. That's what's up.
Resident 5 is fun to play with your friend, laugh at Wesker, punch a boulder.
See, I beat that game by myself the first time, so there goes
your
your
masochist. You're a masochist. Like, there's no way.
That'd be so boring.
Yeah.
You give Sheva the sniper rifle, she's completely fine, yo.
Like,
she never died for me, bro.
You played it on easy.
I played on veteran the first time out.
No,
sure you did.
You didn't.
I had the achievements to prove it. Check my achievements.
Check
the receipts, bro.
This guy played with Pero. Now I know you're a game elder, so you played with Pero. Anyway.
Pero hates the games I play. You know this.
You played Mario Kart? Shut up. That's a bad game you play. Anyway, I beat that game in one night. I bought that game on launch day. Me and one of my buddies, we played it start to finish, midnight to fucking, 10 a.m., and I went to work grumpy as hell because I got no sleep.
And you played a bad game.
And then I played it again one more time.
That must be why you hate it. You played it like sleep deprived,
I played it twice.
Nope, just part of the narrative.
Anyway, whatever. And I keep saying, listen, as a co-op game, it is fun. But it's fun on a very basic level of these mechanics are good, the headshots are fun, and some of these sequences are so fucking hilarious that, like, how could you not enjoy it? But there's large stretches of that game that are just so laughably bad. And what I mean by that is... I can't think
of any, bro.
El Gigante gets turned into a fucking chain gun sequence.
But that's not laughably bad. That's like whatever,
How is it not laughably bad? They completely neutered that segment of everything that made El Gigante cool. And we want to talk about another stupid one. You have to pull that stupid medallion off of Jill Valentine's chest.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty lame.
That was pretty bad. So was the Wesker fight before you punched the boulder. When he's just dodging around like a jackass.
Yeah, that was pretty
bad too. You know what else is really bad? When you're on the boat and there's two of you, one of you's on the left and the other one's on the right, and like it's not really that interesting a scenario because you get to gate 1, you shoot some dude, you pull some levers. You get to gate dude, you shoot some dudes, you pull some levers. You move to gate 3, you shoot some dudes, you pull some levers. That's the end of the sequence.
You mean like in RE4 when you're protecting her? When you're protecting her all the times? Like while she's pulling levers and shit? What's the difference?
While she's pulling lever while you're guarding her from enemies. That is a vastly different scenario.
What's the difference?
Because it's actually more varied and it only happened once.
How's it varied when it's the same thing every time?
Because no. You enter that room in Resident Evil 4, dudes come after you, you eliminate them, you get to the next part of the area, you give her, what's that shit called? When you tell someone to, like, lift off of your hands.
Whatever, you boost her up, piggyback.
You boost her up, you boost her up, right? And she's gonna go do the thing, and during that whole time, while she's taking care of that, you're shooting dudes that are chasing her while also taking care of dudes coming at you. You are managing two things at once. In Resident Evil 5, all you do is you stand still on a boat, dudes stand there to get shot at, you get off the boat, you shoot dudes in the same normal way you always did, you and your co-op partner get to a lever, pull it, and that sequence does that 3 times because it's rules of 3 video game bullshit.
RE4, bruh. RE4 like
okay,
that too.
First of all, if you... No, it did not.
When they pick her
up,
sequences,
they're like, no.
When they pick her up, they're the least like rushing bad guys ever. They like take her out for like a so slowly walking away. You have hours to rescue her. Fuck that.
If you think those two scenarios are even the same thing, you are
the exact same thing.
No, they're not.
Yo, have you ever lifted someone?
They're both pretty great. Yeah, they're casually just walking her out of the door.
Time out. Are you also gonna go to bat for motherfucking the Kamala guys that like you have to shoot later?
The
fucking villagers.
What about them?
The Kamala looking motherfuckers.
Yeah, what about them?
You never watch wrestling, Kamala?
No, I don't watch wrestling. Is that the one with Batista?
Yeah,
with the Batista bottom.
Yeah, Batista bottom and the Beast elbow.
The Beast elbow? How dare you insult The Rock with this crap? The people's champion getting shitted on now.
What did you have a beef with the Savage people in the?
It's stupid. It's a fucking lame ass segment the entire time. Go pull on this rope shit across the goddamn thing. Don't even get me started on how at least 5 of the bosses in that game are the same giant tentacle monster. Like, Resident Evil 4 had these cool creative things, and in Resident Evil 5, we just put a big giant black tentacle thing together and called it a day. But that's, it's only suffering from Resident Evil 4's great. No, it's suffering from it's just not good in spots. Like, large stretches of it it's not paced very well. Resident Evil 4 built up things. Resident Evil 5 throws things at you.
I think the only part I didn't like in that game, like vehemently dislike, was the part with all those lickers when you have to send Sheva by yourself. That was annoying.
And then the lickers. It took an enemy that was actually fun in the older Resident Evils and ruined them. Then there was the fucking bugs, which are worse than the bugs in Resident Evil 4. Then there's the part where Resident Evil 5 enemies have guns.
I'll give you those bugs. The bugs were.
And
I don't know what they're thinking.
5 enemies have guns while you're on a conveyor belt in a game where you can't move and shoot. Whereas the chain gun guys that were in Resident Evil 4... I forgot about that part. I completely blocked that from memory. Yeah, let's forget the little mirror puzzle in the fucking pyramid in Resident Evil 5. As well as scorpions. That mirror puzzle is so stupid. It's a dumb puzzle.
I mean, they're all dumb puzzles. Come on, let's be real here.
Yeah, but Resident Evil 4's are quick. Resident Evil 5's is tedious. Resident Evil 4's puzzles are, boom, you're done. They're, laughable, but they're done super quick.
Resident Evil 5 is just not memorable. I've gone through that game twice with my friend, and I seriously forgot that I had already beaten it the second time I went through it. There's just so much, so much just feels the same, or,
it's
nothing
monotone.
Happens.
Yeah, there's no pacing, there's no variety.
There's that one part where you have to, scale that mountain thing. You're just going up back and forth, and then there's those bats are coming down. I was just this is so fucking annoying. A lot of that game I just felt was annoying. I just want this part to be over.
Chris Redfield took the story seriously before he punched the boulder. Leon S. Kennedy had cool lines. Chris Redfield's I'm Chris, I got big arms and I'm an asshole.
Well, at least we had Wesker with the complete global situation.
Wes, listen. Again, I have no problem with saying Resident Evil 5 is an okay game. It's a fun game. I will even concede good co-op game. I just want that qualifier there, co-op.
Good co-op, yeah.
Yeah.
I've never played it solo.
Because it totally deserves the criticisms it gets for its level design and pacing. Because it's not that just that it dropped off of Resident Evil 4. I mean, it completely fucking fell off.
But when you're coming after Jordan, I mean, what do you expect?
But yeah, whatever. But then Resident Evil 6 happened, and that makes you just appreciate Resident Evil 5 tenfold.
Resident
Evil 6 is basically Metroid Other M, where it's I suddenly appreciate Metroid Prime 3 now.
Yeah, that's a compliment comparing that game to Other M. Other M at least playable. Resident Evil 6 is
Yeah, Other M at least has good boss fights. Resident Evil 6
Other M has good gameplay all the way around.
They took a shit on the disc and sent you that.
yeah. Will's right about that. Other M actually has good gameplay ideas, whereas Resident Evil 6 is like, when me and Aljosa were doing Endless Backlog, and I installed that game, so we're gonna have to do it again, Aljosa, but...
Resident Evil 6, like, they tried to, like, simulate the feeling of having the Lost Plagas at you, yo, because you're struggling playing this game and shit, getting so angry. It's just tempted to break everything.
I watched you guys play that, and it just looks so
bad. It's so painful, man. Like, I felt...
I
felt physically ill playing a game.
Aljosa said during the game, because I'm like, they try to copy Western game development. Aljosa just comes mad quick with it, because you know how Aljosa is when he's off the cuff.
Off the cuff, yeah.
Yeah, he's like, man, if this is what they like, if I was a Western developer, I would be offended that Capcom thought.
Yeah, but this is what they think of the games they make. Oh shit!
Like if I'm developing Gears of War, Uncharted, Spec Ops, Space Marine, name shooters at this point, all those developers should be offended that Capcom thinks Resident Evil 6 is those games, because it's not. It is so mechanically poor.
The best part of that game was the thumbs up. That was so funny.
They ruined Leon.
Yeah.
Because now even Leon takes...
thumbs up. I will at least give them props because Conan did the review of that game. And that's like that game's justification for existing. There's a 10-minute clip of Conan O'Brien show, so that's okay.
Yeah. It just, everything is so awkward and janky looking.
But that also, like, speaks to what Resident Evil is now in a post-Resident Evil 4 world, which is, like, Resident Evil 4 might have been, like, whatever, I just trashed Resident Evil 5, but, like, Resident Evil 4 was their creative peak, and maybe Resident Evil 5 is the best it's ever gonna be from here on in, because, like, whatever, Resident Evil 5 is so fun. You can still have fun playing that game. There's nothing wrong with a fun game. But it's never going to be that again. You know what I mean? Like, it's never going to be great again. It's
Unless
never going to be like...
totally redo something.
Which is, like, what we mean. Like, someone needs to show, like, there's a new direction. And, like, maybe, but, like, let's talk about Capcom in a post.
Let's talk about Capcom post 05.
Yeah, like...
Well, they had Dead Rising.
Yeah, well, no, that's what I mean. But, so, and they had a lot of good games. The previous generation, they had a lot of good games. One of them made our top 10. Of the gen.
Street Fighter 4.
And I think there was at least an argument that could have been made for one more Capcom game making our top 10. It just wasn't in any of our individual ones. That would be Dead Rising, because I think Dead Rising is one of those games that could potentially contend for a spot, but wasn't.
Shit, yeah. I don't even count that as old Capcom, yeah. Didn't that game come out in like 2006? Yeah, that's old Capcom.
2006, like Clover left, right? Because they disbanded Clover because assholes, and that would become Platinum Games, and then Shinji Mikami left, which at that point all you have is Inafune, right? And for a little while they made games like Dead Rising, great game, Dead Rising 2, fun game, Street Fighter 4, great game, Lost Planet was Street Fighter 4 was amazing. I just said Street Fighter 4 twice.
Super Street Fighter 4.
Ghost Trick and Phoenix Wright was really good. In fact, Ghost Trick I think is awesome. There's probably something
Dragon's
else
Dogma
Capcom. Dragon's Dogma was a fun game.
Devil May Cry 4 is underrated.
Devil May Cry 4 is really good, unlike DMC. And then like now when we think of Capcom, and
now we think
since
of
Resident Evil 6, it's been like, man, all they do is Street Fighter ports, and like I think they're broke. Because Resident Evil Revelations 2 is an episodic game. Which hopefully turns out good, because I really want it to be good at this point. But
dude, without Sony, Street Fighter 5 wouldn't even exist.
Yeah,
Capcom hasn't even made a game this gen, the original game.
Yeah, no, there's no original IP yet, because everything is Dead Rising 3 and
Dead Rising 3 is still Blue Castle Games, so I'm not even going to count that as Capcom.
I mean, whatever, it's still at least Capcom funding something. It's still Capcom IP, and... But like,
Microsoft published it, though.
Capcom, at that point, during the PS2 era, is the best publisher of that era, in my opinion. Hands down. Because the combination of Devil May Cry, Killer 7, of that generation, PS2 era? PS2 era.
Konami's the best of every generation.
It's not this one.
Yeah, not the last one. Which, whatever, I've we've had this discussion before. I personally think if there was ever a company that really belonged in that discussion with Nintendo for greatest of all time, it's Capcom
and Sega. Blizzard.
And no, just Capcom.
Sega.
Blizzard would definitely be the pick for Western, but I wouldn't put them with Capcom and Nintendo just because of like it's not because they can match Blizzard matches the quality, but Nintendo and Capcom also have the quantity to go with the quality. It's like they also had so many games.
I just think if you were gonna pick like a Western developer, it's Blizzard.
It would be Blizzard or
Blizzard. They make like 2 games every decade, man. Come on.
Yeah, but like for a while. I mean, they also make like like genre-defining games per decade. So let's not get
too genre-defining. Do you mean they rip off Warhammer?
You mean that is well in a video game? That's just superficial. All Warhammer did was give them aesthetics.
No,
the actual gameplay. Like StarCraft
and
is
even then, the
RTS.
aesthetics for Warcraft or StarCraft, Warcraft, and Warhammer 40,000 don't look anything alike anymore. They really don't.
Let's not get carried away.
Check this revisionist history out.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not willing to go as far as Will did with that, but I will say that StarCraft status as the greatest RTS, I buy it, or even Warcraft for that matter, and World of Warcraft status as the MMO, kind of earned.
Yo,
do they have cosmetics? Nope. GG
anyway,
well played.
GG well played.
It is kind of sad that these the once all-time greats are now kind of phasing out. We don't see them anymore. Capcom.
Don't even get me started, bro. Don't get me started.
Yeah.
Capcom's the one that makes me sad, and I feel like maybe I brought it upon myself, making fun of Aljosa and lame-ass Sega.
Capcom, whatever. I don't give a fuck about them. Konami and Sega. Now that is sad. Konami makes pachinko machines and furniture. Like, let that sink in. Furniture.
I don't know, man. I didn't want Capcom to go down.
Not like
it's
this.
Like if
not like this.
Michael Jordan left basketball not for baseball, but to like fucking knit baskets or something. That's how bad it is.
That's Konami. They went to knit baskets.
Yeah, they're the knitting basket. Yeah, basket weaving 101.
I mean, Konami was They were good.
Konami was the best developer publisher of the Super Nintendo and Nintendo days for me, bruh.
You weren't even alive.
Exactly. I played them afterwards. That's how good they are. Konami's the king.
It's funny though. Like Capcom has fallen off to a point where like I don't get excited for Capcom games. Like there used to be a time if Capcom's name was on it, I was there. And now
Capcom seems cheap to me now.
Yeah.
Capcom has at least regressed slowly. Konami just been all of a sudden they just imploded like out of nowhere.
To be fair, Capcom did have a game as bad as Final Fantasy 13, but they didn't drop off the way Square did. My only thing is Square looks like they might be coming back. Like there's visual signs.
I've been saying that, after they've like got their shit together and said publicly that we'll try to like change our strategy or whatever.
Yeah, but Capcom
I've been saying that for a couple of years
because
they are making the effort at the very least.
And the thing about Capcom is they have no more talent left at that studio. So even if they tried to like change their ways, I mean, what the hell would they be making? You say that,
but like the Devil May Cry 3, 4 guys are still there. Like that's the team that made Dragon's Dogma. Dragon's Dogma is not a bad game.
That's like, one studio, like one group of individuals.
The Street Fighter team is still there. The Ghost Trick team is still there.
Street Fighter was outsourced though. They were made by dimps mostly.
It wasn't Capcom's people. Well, then whatever. Keep outsourcing then. Like Capcom is in a position where like there are people there and they have the IPs. Or really, what they really should be doing is make new ones. Like, if Resident Evil's dead, let it die and let's do a new one. Let's do a new, like, successor to Resident Evil that's not Resident Evil. Like, maybe that's the problem. Like, maybe the problem is Ninja Theory shouldn't have been making Devil May Cry. They should have been making their own game because their Devil May Cry sucks.
I think developers and publishers are just scared right now to make new IPs.
Yeah.
Yeah, after they see how such potentially amazing and innovative titles like The Order have turned up.
Speaking of which, go well, and then we'll get back to The Order.
Like, we're seeing all these studios, especially in Japan, try to take these characters, or not characters, these IPs, and like bend them to be something they're not, because they're so afraid of publishing something new, and they're so afraid of the risk, and all it does is end up hurting the series. And you saw that with Resident Evil 6. That's what it was. We're gonna try to make Resident Evil into something it's not. Look how well that turned out.
And then cause brand damage while we're at it.
See, like, I don't think DMC's a terrible game, but it definitely hurt Devil May Cry, because they were like, we're gonna take this and make it something that it's really not supposed to be.
I mean, when you say
it sold worse than Devil
exactly?
May Cry 4.
I mean, it sold a buttload.
But yeah, like, you can just see the general reaction that if a Resident Evil 7 was announced, or a Devil May Cry 2 or DMC 2, those games would not sell nearly as much as their predecessors.
Yeah, whereas if like Devil May Cry 5 is announced, the internet would get behind it until like they see something that makes them go, "Oh no."
Yeah. Like, you even saw that Dragon Age Inquisition didn't sell as much as Dragon Age 2 because Dragon Age 2 brand.
Yeah, at some point you're just stuck with that stigma. Like, Battlefield 4 is to a lot of people still broken, and like me, Wazdi, and them have been playing it lately. That's a really good shooter, but it's like, if I bring that up in just like casual conversation, like, oh, that broken piece of shit, man, that game is a disaster. It works for you?
Yeah.
Like, your computer doesn't explode. It's like, yeah, it's fixed now. It took them 2 years.
Yeah.
And that's the stigma Master Chief Collection will have a year from now when it's fixed. Yeah. It's always going to be broken to people.
How do you fuck
it's the same thing with, like, so badly, if you want the ultimate example of this for, like, that's going to hurt for the next decade, look at the Xbox One. Look at that system. That system is forever the system that does not play used games, that cost too much, and that makes you check in online. It doesn't matter what Microsoft does for the next 5 years, they're going to be rebuilding that console because of their stupidity.
Yeah.
Kind of like the PS3 was an expensive system with no games.
Yeah.
The 360 was a red ring system all the way till the end.
First impressions and the most recent memories people have, like, it hangs on you.
Like, nobody pays attention beyond the initial in this industry anymore.
Yeah. Speaking of, back to the order thing, I was going to get into how third-person shooters have gained the ability to move and shoot since Resident Evil 4. None of them flaunt I don't even want to say percentage of the ideas of Resident Evil 4. I mean, I say this stuff partially because I love dissing Bungie, but I sincerely mean this because this is like almost fact. This is fact. The following is fact. This is not opinion. Resident Evil 4 has more gameplay ideas than 5 Halo games made by Bungie and Destiny.
Definitely Destiny.
I'm saying just add those games up together, and if you really start taking sequence out by sequence, you would start realizing Resident Evil 4 had more ideas than them, because a lot of those other Halo games ended up being similar games after a certain point.
That Scarab fight, though?
Yeah, the Scarab fight. I'm not saying the fights weren't good. I'm not even dissing that part. I'm saying,
no, I know what you mean.
Like, this is one of those things where I will give it to Half-Life 2 fans. Your game sucks, because it's boring, but if you wanted to say Half-Life 2 has more ideas than 5 Halo games combined, that is objectively true.
Yeah.
Because Half-Life 2 does have ideas for days.
It's just the same shooting in different scenarios in Halo, whereas Resident Evil 4 asks you to do different things.
Because we like minecarts, motherfucker.
Yeah.
Yeah. But fuck yeah. But like the order is like this 5-hour game, maybe 2 ideas for gameplay. Like it's all whack-a-mole shooting from what I'm hearing.
That's just so it must be just a new developer being out of their league, because how does a game get delayed that much with that much publicity around it?
Released
and
before
it's like
it was ready.
5 hours long. That's crazy.
Are you sure about that? I mean, they seemed pretty like satisfied that it was ready.
Yeah, they seemed like they were ready.
I mean, they're clearly proud of what they were making, so I can't.
Who knows? Maybe we need to act truthfully and like, yo, what went wrong, bro?
Yeah, because from what I'm hearing, like, even the script isn't even that good. Like, the crux of what everyone's saying.
I mean, come on.
But even by,
it's a video game. Like, what are we expecting?
Yeah. But I mean, it's not even up
like
to
by video game standards.
Yeah,
IGN is calling this out for having a bad plot. holy shit, how badly have you failed?
IGN,
you know you done goofed.
Yeah, like IGN doesn't like your writing. IGN thinks like Halo 4 is this masterpiece of storytelling.
And Uncharted 3, oh, my heart broke as Drake was broke.
I can't, and what's really scary and unfortunate is this could be, like, with the cost of game production, with how publicized flops are these days, that could just, boom, be the end of Ready at Dawn as a AAA studio.
That could be the end of Ready at Dawn, who, like, come on, you deserve more than one chance.
I know, that's crazy.
But, like, even further, like, some people... No, but here's the thing, like, some people on Twitter are going, like, hey, if you want new IPs, you can't and it's like...
Well,
okay, first of all, if this one bad game is telling you to not make new IPs, like, the real issue is, don't make bad games, but we still want new ideas. We want two things, not one. Good game plus new IP, not just good game or just new IP. Want both.
Yeah, I would take a good game from an old IP over a bad game with the new IP. Like, it doesn't matter. If it's a bad game, it's a bad game.
Yeah, but like we also want more creative. I mean, whatever. But it's like still like even like other like Max Payne 3, brilliant shooting mechanics, but like the cutscenes are intrusive. The pacing isn't that good. A lot of it is. I mean, Max Payne in general was never like about variety, but you know, not a varied game. Uncharted 3, like I think Resident Evil 4 has better shooting mechanics than Uncharted 3. Like, explain that.
I can't. You know what's gonna be funny though? How heavily hyped The Order was, 1886.
Yep.
That game, especially after this year, is going to be forgotten in months.
Sort of like every other heavy...
See, you say that, but I feel like it'll get the lair treatment where everyone remembers it as...
No, but the thing is, time's actually been kind of lair. Because with the improved controls... Yeah, people are like, hey, this game's actually pretty good.
Yeah, well, yeah, lair when they patched in the controls, it was a decent game.
Yeah, see, but that comes back to our Battlefield 4 thing.
The Order is that terrible?
The game
more like Haze,
now, but all people remember about it is, wow, that game sucked, remember?
The Order is going to be more like Haze instead of lair.
Oh, yeah, that one works.
Remember Haze? Shit.
I don't think The Order can be fixed. Like, what's quote unquote wrong with it can't be patched in. It's just the
core game. Now, you can't patch fun into that game.
No.
The fun is sold separately.
Yeah.
So not at all, bro. Shit is banned by Nancy's government.
Speaking of rights, why don't we get to the potentially mean one?
Not approved by the FDA.
Why don't we get to the final one, which is Shinji Mikami. His place as one of the 10 best Japanese video game directors of all time, that's locked in. And I think Resident Evil and Resident Evil 4 lock him in on that.
Yeah, Warren Spector's up there, I agree.
First of all, Japanese.
Warren Spector for Japanese.
Yeah. Now, first of all, we've already been over this. If he's anything, he's Japanese John Romero, except way better.
Wait, who's Japanese John Romero?
Shinji
Mikami.
I guess. I mean, that works.
They both do horror?
Japanese Warren Spector, man.
Japanese Warren Spector made one game. Shinji Mikami's made more than one good game.
Evil Within is Shinji Mikami's Epic Mickey, yo.
Oh my god.
Wow. Do not even start this. Anyway, I was gonna say Evil Within is a rough game with like really rough patches, but otherwise, it does the Shinji Mikami thing of having variety. It does the Shinji Mikami thing of testing the player. Like a lot of that game that I loved, which fucking pansies criticized it for, was... And this part is cheap. It was too hard. I'm a little bitch.
It expects you to figure it out. Get good, kid.
And it's like, what happened? Like, this pissed me off because, like, we again need another podcast on this thing. Electronic Arts creative director. Yes, it's that bad. I felt like calling them by their full name. He said our games might be too complicated, too difficult for people to learn, and I'm like, what? Like, what?
Yeah, no. That's so scary,
just like
man.
Deus Ex Invisible Warrior. That's why they made that game.
No,
just like Shinji Mikami.
No, fuck you. Not even having your trolling. I will delete you from this thing.
You can't delete me, but you can't delete the truth.
Yes, I can. I can delete this entire part of the podcast if I wanted.
Don't tread on me.
What I'm trying to get at is when the reason I never have sympathy towards people like, oh, that's too hard. I want this to be easier. I want this accessible. When we were kids, my generation, yes, I'll just a real long time ago, whatever, ha ha ha.
You had games back then?
Like, we were given games that might be so hard, and they didn't come with the sissy pansy easy mode. And you had two options. Wait till Christmas so you can get a new game to play that maybe you can handle, or you man the fuck up and you got good at the game. Like, we had to fight through the ass whipping and get good. Kids!
Why don't you just find someone else to play Pong with you?
But like now, if a video game comes out and it's hard, it's like, this isn't gonna reach a broad audience. It's not for everybody. It's just a little rough. I couldn't figure out the part that the stationary enemy that has a one-hit kill move, and I have the ability to throw explosives at it, a freeze bolt that freezes it in its place, a shotgun, a sniper, and a handgun. I felt it was unfair, even though I had every tool in the fucking book to not even get touched by it.
No, man, that's like, so scary.
I mean, I get your point, but you're sort of exaggerating there. I mean, there do exist hard games that's kind of bullshit. I mean, Ninja Gaiden 2, we'll agree that game is bullshit.
We both agree that Ninja Gaiden 2 is bullshit. What I'm saying is, though, there's the one scenario that I read in a Jim Sterling review, who everybody adores, and I like him on Jimquisition. I, however, do not like him as a reviewer. He has this one boss fight in a parking lot where his final form has a one-hit kill move. You just freeze the thing and you shoot it. Like, you have an ice bolt. You have the tools. Like, I don't understand this weirdo mentality where, like, you have the tools. Like, the best example I've ever thought of that video game critics are the furthest thing from, like, understanding games with depth at this point, besides Platinum Games, is Dark Souls 2. Because the community of the Souls games turned on Dark Souls 2, and the game critics didn't understand why until they hopped on the same bandwagon. Because all of a sudden, it's like, yeah, Dark Souls 2 was a little disappointing. It just wasn't as good with the bosses, you know? But those motherfuckers didn't notice that the first fucking time they were playing it. Meanwhile, NeoGaf knew it in 5 seconds. Meanwhile, you knew it when you were playing it.
So almost like game journalists aren't honest.
I know that.
They're bad at their job.
I'm just further saying Evil Within got punished for the wrong reasons. What it should have got punished for was A, those black bars suck ass and are totally unnecessary.
Yeah, that's stupid. Oh my god.
Number two,
still waiting for them to get patched out.
Are you saying you don't like the filmic experience?
No. Number two, the forced stealth in Evil Within, where everything in Resident Evil 4 worked, not everything in Evil Within works. Some things that are added in are like, that's stupid, doesn't need to work that way. And the other thing is, Resident Evil 4 was this creative game that had ideas after ideas after ideas after ideas. Evil Within is, remember that time in Resident Evil 4, remember that time in Resident Evil 4, remember that time in Resident Evil 4, the game. Like, almost all of its ideas are things from Resident Evil 4.
Yeah, remember that part of Resident Evil 4? When the game started and then it ended? Shit.
My favorite... No, don't even say ended, because, like, the credits are even amazing.
Actually, when it ended was the worst part, because I couldn't play it anymore.
No, you say that, but the credits were amazing. The credits were amazing in Resident Evil 4.
They actually were.
It's almost like Resident Evil 4 and the Evil Within were made by the same person.
Yeah, but Evil Within isn't anywhere near as good. Like, Evil Within is it's a good game. I think it's a good game. I think it is unjustly hated.
I got you back
cases,
on this,
but I mean, it does warrant some major criticism. Like, I have no qualm with saying Alien Isolation was the better horror game, but
that's why I bought that one.
If someone's putting Resident Evil 5 and any one of the Dead Space games over Evil Within, I'm laughing in their face. I'm like, no.
Yo, Dead Space 90 on Metacritic.
I remember
Evil
when
Within
Dead Space
78.
1 came out, yeah.
Wait,
Dead
what?
Space 1 came out, everyone was singing better than Resident Evil 4. Good times.
Iron Bass said that, didn't he?
Yeah, what a nutcase.
That's crazy.
But guys, back to the Shinji Mikami thing, because we got sidetracked. On your goddamn Warren Spector analogy, which sucks, because Warren Spector sucks.
Epic
Shinji
Mickey.
Mikami also made God Hand and Killer 7. Both are fucking cool. No, I am not giving Pseudo51 credit for Killer 7, because he sucks without Shinji Mikami. So Shinji gets credit for Killer 7. Fuck Pseudo51. No more heroes of shit.
Tell us how you really feel.
Yeah, also, what's the other piece of crap you made? Oh, Lollipop Chainsaw. Douche.
Lollipop Chainsaw and what was that other one?
Shadows of the Damned, also with Shinji Mikami, his other better game.
Not that one. The one
speaking of which, the Game Under guys, one of them loves No More Heroes. Dog shit fucking game. But Shadows of the Dam, they didn't try. I was like, I'm sorry, they made a fun game this time. What? Fuck off. God damn it. I think it was... It wasn't even just Phil Fogg, who, by the way, gifted me a game. Delightful lad. And he's been helping me edit my podcast. So, again, I don't want to shit on him too much.
Lad.
But even Towers was like, No More Heroes, it's not dog shit. And it's like, no, it is supremely shitty. And I understand I come from master, like, beat-em-up elitist camp, right? Because I don't even give this credit. Like, but I would rather play Dynasty Warriors than No More Heroes.
Ew, whoa.
Like, if you gave me the option, I'd be like, maybe I'll pretend to have fun while playing Dynasty Warriors.
You know what? We need to stop all
messed
this
up, man. Yeah, this is
fucking
crazy.
No More Heroes.
Dynasty Warriors? Oh my god, I'd rather be blind.
Listen.
Be quiet, Chris.
It's how Joseph's doing. He compares him to Warren Spector, and it's like, no, fuck you. It's like,
true.
I was like, Shinji Mikami's Platinum game is probably my least favorite Platinum game, and it's like, no, there's no way.
Just like when Warren Spector left to do Epic Mickey.
Epic Mickey isn't half as good as Vanquish.
It's not the point. The parallels are there. There.
Warren Spector literally only made one good game. Shinji Mikami made multiple good games.
I think that's a little bit unfair to Warren Spector. But
wait, what do you mean? It's not that unfair to Warren Spector. I mean, I'm trying to think. He didn't do anything else out of Deus Ex.
He did Wing
Deus
Commander. He worked on Ultima 6.
Well, as a director, obviously.
Okay, as a director, fair enough. Well, he did Thief.
Yeah. Thief 3, not the good Thief.
Dark Project.
Yeah, Thief the Dark Project. He was...
And Deadly Shadows.
I don't even see him listed on the credits on Wikipedia, so clearly he didn't do shit besides, like, bring them coffee on breaks or whatever.
Yeah.
It's important.
I mean, listen, whatever. But Shinji's drop-off hasn't been that bad. Plus, again, with Tango, he's trying to let, like... His thing is he wants to get newer Japanese developers, and Evil Within definitely felt like a young team working on it. Which, whatever. Fucking
excuses.
I would like to see but it has been... I will say this, though. I will agree with you. It's been a long time since Shinji Mikami's made a great game.
You could say that
in
about 10 years.
10 years from now, I believe. 10 years, yeah.
I would argue God Hand is great.
I haven't played God Hand, so I can't say anything.
God Hand has one of the coolest battle engines and the best camera in that entire genre.
Yeah, it's a great combat engine game. That's about it.
It's you always make that knock and it never works. It has great boss fights.
It's the Devil May Cry of that. The Devil May Cry 3 of whatever the fuck I'm trying to. But the point
Devil May Cry 3 is one of the best games in that genre. So please fuck off.
The point is, nice combat engine game.
Yeah, that's great. Fuck you.
Yo, you can't beat facts. 3.0 on IGN. Well, come on. How do you
Stop.
Great. Are you happy with this, Towers? You happy with this?
You know what they say? Men lie, women lie, numbers don't. So,
dude, citing IGN is like citing Wikipedia for a university paper. You can't do that.
Some kind of monster.
I've done that plenty of times. What are you talking about? I've done that plenty of times.
It's horrible. Monster.
Altos is the king of doing Wikipedia shit. Come on.
Yeah, Wikipedia and Amazon user reviews, yo, for books. Shit, that's the way to go. They come in the clutch, man.
Dude, say.
I think we've done enough with Resident Evil 4 and me bashing shitty ass Suda51 and his garbage ass career. Cause Killer 7 sure to count as a Shinji Mikami game. Whatever.
Just like Thief isn't a Warren Spector game, is that what you mean? Not Shinji Mikami game? Damn, the parallels are all there, yeah.
Wow! No!
Just making shit up right now.
I hope Towers has enjoyed this. Like, he better go, oh man, you need El Jos on more podcasts? It's the last fucking time you're gonna be on, buddy. Ain't happening this shit. So, hold on, time out. While we're on... I think we're ready to wrap this up, right? Unless someone has anything more to say about Resident Evil 4.
Aljos is a monster. That's all I have to say.
Right? I was gonna say, we haven't done this in a while. We really probably should be like, what's our next topic for our next podcast? Like, what should be the discussion point? Like, I
think we should do that thing that I said at the beginning. We should talk about, like, because we're talking about all these games that have anniversaries. We should talk about, like, remakes, remasters.
Games we want remake. So next episode, games we want remade, remastered, or franchises we want to come back will be our next episode. We'll be talking about oldies, golden oldies, and a whole lot of where did you go? Come back, please.
AKA Konami the podcast.
For Al Joseph, certainly. I guess some of us have a little bit more varied taste.
Yeah, like other than Konami. Hopefully Sega never comes back.
What do you mean?
How dare you, yo? What is this?
I know, because I would cry if Valkyria Chronicles and Binary Domain didn't get sequels.
Yeah,
Binary Domain won't get sequels. That game sold less than someone like that game sold
they could
so
make
little.
It, man. They could make it Binary Domain, Big Bo the Second.
I mean, yeah, they could, but Sega's broke, yo. They're eating ramen noodles supplied by sales of Football Manager. Yo.
And their Football Manager sales are tanking. Like,
yeah, they are.
Goddamn.
Chris, finishing thoughts, and then we'll move on to other people.
Resident Evil to me, it's not even in my top 5 personal favorites, but it's hard to argue it as it not being one of the best games of all time. You know what I mean? It's more preference than actual objectively quality.
It's one of those things where it's so good, even when it doesn't make your own list, you respect it.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, I would never
It's kind of like just because The Godfather isn't anywhere near your top 10 doesn't mean you don't go, Godfather's a fucking excellent movie.
Absolutely. That's me all the way. It's probably just outside my top 5, but yeah, fantastic game.
It's like when it's like that escapist review that was like, oh, Godfather 2 was a disappointment after Godfather 1. It's like, fuck you.
Yeah, that makes no sense.
Godfather 2 is amazing. Will?
You know, I'm with Chris on this one. I don't think RE4 would crack my personal top 5. I don't think it would honestly crack my personal top 10, because my top 10 is weird, but nothing but an immense amount of respect for that game. And it's funny, I was watching an old Screw Attack video the other day talking about the 10 best games on the GameCube, and Twilight Princess came in at number 2, and I was thinking, like, what is better than Twilight Princess on the GameCube? And it was Resident Evil 4, and I was like, yeah, that's absolutely right.
Oh, yeah.
That's absolutely right. So, definitely, probably the best, not even probably, the best third-person shooter ever made.
Literally, wait, time out. Yeah, before you finish this, I just want you to know that me and Tom Towers hearing that, because I know he nerd rage too, Metroid fucking Prime.
Well, I haven't played Metroid Prime, so...
I know, but we're really butthurt that Metroid Prime is anything short of second.
I think it was third. But anyway,
that is too short for that game. That is too low. I'm so angry. No, keep going.
But RE4, I think it's probably the best third-person shooter ever. It's definitely in contention. If it is not number 1, it is number 2 or 3. It's an absolute masterpiece. If you haven't played it, go do it. Play the remake. Like, give Resident Evil some love. Maybe they'll make one that doesn't suck.
It's out on everything now. Xbox 360.
It's literally
Wii,
it exists on literally every console or system in the last 10
years. If you were hoping to play that game with a mouse and keyboard, somehow they fucked up that control scheme twice in one lifetime.
Why would you even play that with a mouse and keyboard? Yeah, that's nuts.
Oh my god! Do not speak your fucking heresy and just finish this.
Get this. Resident Evil 4 has released on the GameCube, the PlayStation 2, PC twice, Wii, mobile, iOS, Zeebo, PlayStation 3, and the Xbox 360.
On the Zeebo, son. Brazilian-only console.
And in our lifetime, it will probably release on PS4 and Xbox One. Because it's Capcom.
Oh, absolutely.
And I will buy it, because I'm a shill.
No, this is really bad, because I have bought it. I bought it on GameCube, PS2, PC, Xbox 360. Yeah, so, I bought it on 4 different systems.
I bought that shit more than Street Fighter 4.
Unless you only own like a Wii U, in which case you can probably get it on the Virtual Console.
Oh fuck! I bought it on Wii as well.
There's no excuse. You can play this game. So go play it.
Oh yeah, never forget Justin
Resident Evil 4,
like
right?
It's
that's why.
Yo, who's Justin? I know this person.
Forever banished from podcasts.
I don't know this person.
I'll just say something and then I'll close this out. No, wait, hold on. Please subscribe
Are you sure you want to say something?
No, I want you to close this out. Please subscribe to us on iTunes and Stitcher. Also, subscribe to the YouTube thing, because I'm going to put this podcast on our YouTube channel. This is Endless Backlog. I am Goggin. Tune in next week when we talk about golden oldies that need to come back, remasters we want to see, remakes we want to see, and just straight up franchises, please come back. And El Josa will be closing us out. El Josa.
I just want to say thank you for having me. Thank you for having me on this podcast. I want to thank my mom, my dad, Rosine before, Shinji Mikami, Warren Spector, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, the Order developers.
That's just mean.
He's never coming back. He's never coming back.
I want to thank the best developer of all time, Suda51.
Say goodbye to Al Joseph, folks. You'll never see him again.
Yeah. Bye, El Josa.
And
remember me as a hero.
Peace.